It's time to absorb the lore of Dark Souls. Shout out to Tamar Hussein. You can follow him at TamorH on Twitch, on Twitter. Tam put together a big playlist of videos that I should watch for the Dark Souls lore. So let's do that. Here we go.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
The light meant everything to Gwyn, for before light, it was nothing. Imagine being a nameless member of some primitive congregation, barely scraping by in a harsh, dark world. Then, you come across a most glorious sight, light. And by that light you find a soul. Not just any soul, but the most powerful soul.
A dark
one
one.
that carries with it the power, no, the responsibility to lift your race out of the shadows onto the surface, where the dragons dwell. Gwyn did not win this first war overnight. We forget this, but during the Age of Ancients, there was still time for the lords to rise. Civilizations were built, alliances were forged, loyal knights were appointed, and betrayers were born. For after disparity came creatures that were not born equal. Creatures like Seath,
Seath
who
looks so
lived
cool.
without the immortal stone scales of his brethren. With his mortality came a desperation, an ambition, a jealousy, things the stone dragons never had, and could never understand. And so, with their secrets betrayed by the Pale Drake, the dragons' homes were burnt to ash, their scales were pierced by lightning, and their flesh was exposed to disease. The war was won, and Gwyn could have eliminated Seath here.
This is
But
cool.
he chose not to. Instead, he did just the opposite. He granted Seath a piece of his very own soul. He elevated him to the peerage, he granted him dukedom, and also the hand of his daughter, Guinevere,
Damn,
with
what's
whom
up?
he could sire royal children.
You made me kill her.
Honoring Seath like this ended up costing Gwyn his closest battle compatriot, Havel the Rock, who harbored this deep hatred against the Scaleless
Oh
dragon.
shit, I didn't know that.
Havel is not found in-game, but deep within Anor Londo, behind an illusory wall and protected by a mimic, are his armaments, alongside the occult weaponry designed to kill a god. From this we can guess that Havel nursed this resentment for Gwyn, though it seems he never acted on it. At this time, after all, Gwyn was surrounded by his entourage of knights, many of them wistfully craving this return to the combat that had once given them purpose.
Hey, that's the...
Gwyn
Oh,
would
there we go.
repeat this behavior throughout the Age of Fire, keeping his friends close and his enemies even closer, for fire was at its peak, and the whole world was charmed by its brilliance.
Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in the green bay. Rage,
Green Bay.
rage against the dying of the light.
Red 5.
To Nitro, Gwyn permitted a quiet domain for all of the deceased, and in return, Nitro never did spread death to the gods. Over in Izalith, the witch was tolerated despite spawning her creatures of chaos.
Dude, fuck
But there
the
was
bed
a
of
fourth
chaos.
lord, one that I didn't mention when talking about the Dragon Wars, but one who took part in them just the same. The furtive pygmy race and their descendants. The pygmy lords, squirreling away a soul of dark, represented the most significant threat to Gwyn's Age of Fire. So what do you think Gwyn did? Exterminate them? No. Instead, Gwyn indebted them with the greatest gifts of all. While the pygmy lords waited patiently for light to fade, Gwyn twisted their fate. Prop up this tiny race, bathe them in the glory of the light, blind them with its brilliance, give them a crown, a ringed city, his youngest.
I'm going to adjust the subtitles.
The pygmy lords waited patiently for light to fade. Gwyn twisted their fate. Prop up this tiny race, bathe them in the glory of the light, blind them with its brilliance, give them a crown, a ringed city, his youngest daughter, let them indulge in bounty, and, while they're still weak, raise a dragon to watch over them, seal their dark with fire, and shackle them to
This is other
mortality.
Souls lore.
Let them spread across the earth, and forget their heritage, their accomplishments.
Tam put that in the
Let the origins of humanity be buried,
description.
out of sight and out of mind. So, the pygmies were walled off, safe in a city that exists only at the end of the world.
Yeah.
Most of them stayed there forever, happily subservient to their
Yeah, I won't
princess
remember, chat.
Eleanor, whose very slumber was a miracle that was designed to prevent time from passing. Meanwhile, humans, the pygmies' ancestors, had spread to the outside world, and out there, they too warmed themselves by fire. However, unbeknownst to most of them, this ran counter to their true nature. In the dark, there are no shadows, but where fire resides, shadows twist and shrivel. So, some members of the dark did sense that something was wrong, and they began to ram against their shackles.
This motherfucker.
First, a mad king was born to the pygmies, and he was undying, as the dark should be, so he was held in a dark room until the end of time. Later, yet another pygmy lord would go on to spawn an abyss when he was unearthed in Ulasil. And over time, even mankind turned into monsters. This hollowing process that unfairly became attributed to their darkness instead of the fire that branded them.
Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night.
Gwyn's
Good movie.
favorite tool of control was the church, something he had used to great effect already in the Ringed City.
Man, Miyazaki loves having characters having control of the church. I think it's such a cool storytelling device as well. That shit's so badass, dude. I love it.
That good night.
Gwyn's favorite tool of control was the church, something he had used to great effect already in the Ringed City, and he would use it again now to indoctrinate the people of the wider world. Gwyn the White was their deity of worship, and Lloyd the Grey was at its head, acting as a sort of intermediary between gods and humans. They framed undeath as a terrible sin, and so the undead became the subjects of undead hunts, led by cleric knights charged to cleanse the unholy. And if such a cleric, God forbid, actually became undead themselves, then there was a solution to that too. Such ironically cursed humans were shipped off to Lordran and given a new holy mission: retrieve the Rite of Kindling from the deadly catacombs. And if you should fail, well, so what? Gwyn had basically dressed up exile for his undead clerics, but one man whose exile he did not spin for once was the banishment of his firstborn son. The Nameless King, god of war and leader of the Sunlight Covenant, had his godhood
This guy's in Dark
rescinded
Souls 3, I know
after
that.
It was discovered that he was fraternizing with dragons. This was something he covered up. In addition, it seems like Gwyn's captain of the guard, Ornstein, went on to leave his post in favor of the Nameless King, and so too, it appears, did Havel, whose knights arise in the Nameless King's defense at Archdragon Peak. A war had been fought in the name of disparity, yet how righteous, truly, was their war against the ancient, unchanging, everlasting dragons when Gwyn himself refused to cede to the natural order? But Gwyn's manipulation would not last, for the Nameless King was just a crack in the dam, and the wall was set to burst.
Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night.
Many alliances broke, seemingly all at once. Gravelord Nitro had become increasingly reclusive, and the Rite of Kindling had been lost within his domain. Izalith had defiled flame, and Gwyn's war against her demons had weakened his armies. Seath was trending towards madness. The Way of White had begun to worship Lloyd instead. And there were even whispers that Karth, one of the primordial serpents, had begun speaking the truth about the Pygmy Lords. Gwyn's light was waning. Illusions could keep it alive no longer, and some people waited for a Dark Lord.
Oh my god,
to be
there's
born
so many of
amongst
them.
humans. Was Karth right? Was he fighting against the
fuck?
inevitable? Had he found the wrong soul? No. He was Lord Gwyn, august, magnificent, and if he was not yet worthy of worship, then it was because he had not yet made a great enough sacrifice. so Gwyn would link the fire, leave a mark, perform a miracle that was so great, a sacrifice so complete, that it would bring the world back from the brink of darkness. And it worked. Well, too well. Gwyn was consumed, and with his dying breath, utterly defied disparity. The world became cursed. And from this point on, every time an age of fire dwindled, the souls of lords would flourish anew, so that it could all play out again. The timeline of fire had warped. It had turned from a straight line, linked into a circle, becoming this wall,
a circular,
the rightful age of dark,
like a ring,
until the end of time.
like an old ring,
Eventually,
an Elden Ring,
as
if
the
you will.
world burned out over and over again, Ash itself would arise, a new being created from 1,000 failures who had tried to link the fire over the years. But Ash did not belong in this world, and honestly, they had more in common with the beings of the Painted World,
Fuck
where
the Painted
all
World.
of fire's discarded things reside.
Wait,
So,
the Painted World, was that in Dark Souls 3? That didn't look like Dark Souls 1.
they fought for a new purpose, to reunite the Dark Soul, and to paint a new world with it so that they could escape the ashen wasteland that Gwyn
That's
had
cool.
created. And so, far away, at the very end of the world,
I'm fine with
one
future
of the
spoilers.
first
I like
victims
it.
of the curse, Slave Knight Gale, hollowed beyond belief, also sacrificed himself for a new world, and he did not go gentle into that good night.
Whoa, this guy looks sick.
Brave men near death who see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
If you're watching this video,
They love using that
first week
Interstellar
of its
quote,
release, then
It's not
a
from
limited
Interstellar, but you know what I mean.
edition print of our new merch design, now available below in the description. This time, it's inspired by both Dark Souls and Elden Ring. And
I
it's
like
a
the new shirt.
collaboration
I like the
between
new
myself
Vati shirt
and
on
Sigma.
Fangamer.
So, Elden Ring is now said to be a sort of spiritual successor to Dark Souls, and just so, I wanted to design a piece that links the two together. This is Fate.
Damn.
It's this ink-styled knight with bright red hair.
It would have never occurred to me that Vati made this remastered video when Dark Souls Remastered came out, and Elden Ring had already been announced by then. We got a nice overview there. This is Dark Souls story, Gwyn and the First Flame Part 1. This is not remastered, so this is going to be on Vati's older microphone back in 2013. This video is 8 years old. Can you believe that? What the hell?
If there's one thing to remember, it's this. Fire fades, and it's inevitable and natural for the world to return to dark. The future is dark, but it was not always this way. Let's go back to where there was a flame. The hero has made it to the kiln, where the first flame was found, thrived, faded, and was kindled again. The hero descends to kill the god who kindled that flame. This god is a shell now, a husk. He's lost his kingdom, his knights, his wife, children, and friends. But even with nothing left, he sacrificed himself to keep the dark at bay. This is the story of a man who fought against the inevitable. In the beginning, there were two planes of existence. There was the above and the below. Above was grey, with dragons who had existed forever. Nothing changed, nothing progressed, and nothing lived or died. I think of the below as dark, although it probably was nothing of the sort. How can darkness exist without light?
That's
That
the
was
coolest
about to
thing ever.
change, because when the flame came, it created disparity. Now there was light and dark, and the light illuminated the creatures who were hiding. These creatures emerged to inspect the flame, and these were the ones who would become known as giants. For within the flame was great power, and 4 giants claimed this power. They claimed it, and it shaped them. Nitro came
Hold on,
to
let me
embody
rewind.
the
I was
flame.
banning that dude posting
These
a
were
link.
the ones who would become. These creatures emerged to inspect the flame, and these were the ones who would become known as giants.
For within the flame was great power, and 4 giants claimed this power. They claimed it, and it shaped them. Nitro came to embody death. The Witch of Izalith represented life. Lord Gwyn stood for the light, and the pygmy kept his dark soul a secret.
Oh.
Gwyn decreed that the flame was more powerful than the grey existence up above, and the giants declared war on the dragons to claim the surface. Alas, the dragons were immortal, and many knights of Gwyn fell, but there was one dragon who betrayed his own. Seath the Scaleless, born without the stone scales of immortality, told the dragon's weakness to Gwyn. The stone scales were the secret to their immortality, and the lightning was their weakness. So Gwyn and his knights fashioned bolts of lightning to peel apart their stone scales. Nitro unleashed disease on their exposed flesh, and the Witch of Izalith and her followers used fire sorceries to burn their homes, the arch trees, to ash.
You sons of bitches, dude!
And the dragons were no more. And so, the Age of Fire was born, and the giants began their own story. But since this is a story about light, it is also a story about dark.
This is
For
cool
it
as shit, though.
inevitable that one day the flame will fade, and only dark will remain. Seath was granted 3 rewards. He received a piece of Gwyn's Lord Soul, a dukedom in Gwyn's kingdom, and his own research facility to discover immortality, something he never would have had with the dragons around. The Age of Fire had changed the shape of the world.
The Duke's Archives.
Gwyn's kingdom grew during the Age of Fire, and the lands outside assumedly looked to Lordran as their capital city. Anor Londo was built close to the sun, and eventually smaller towns and cities grew to surround it. The giants became the royalty and the gods, and humanity spread, worshipping those more powerful than them. Gwyn himself had a wife whose name is not known, and by her he had 3 children. His firstborn was the god of war, who formed the Warriors of Sunlight. However, he lost the Annals, which were historical records. Gwyn decreed that his son would share the same fate, and all record of the firstborn was stripped from the land. Gwyn's second-born, Guinevere, was well loved, with her own statues and covenant the princess guard. The third of birth was Gwyndolin, who was born frail and deformed. He was raised as a daughter since he was proficient at moonlight magic.
Hey, fuck Gwyndolin, dude.
A female trait.
Awful boss.
His existence was hidden, and his covenant, the Blade of the Dark Moons, hunt down sinners and protect the illusion of power in Anor Londo. For hundreds of years the lords prospered, but everything ends. Locked away in his archives, Seath is desperately searching for the secret to immortality. The 6-eyed channelers read for him, and search the world for test subjects. These test subjects are locked away in crystal golems for transportation back to the archives, where they become the subject of his experiments. At the base of the prison, there are Pisarkas, twisted monsters created from captured maidens. If you listen carefully, you can hear them crying.
I remember, it was scary. That's why I didn't want to kill him.
The knowledge in the archives sends Seath mad. It's impossible to know whether he was insane before or after his experiments on the maidens, but one way or another, Gwyn turns a blind eye to the happenings in the archives. Perhaps it was this that led to the rebellion against the gods. In the war against the dragons, Lord Gwyn had a friend and compatriot named Havel.
Sorry, what's the name of this Vati video? Dark Souls story, Gwyn and the First Flame, Part 1. My chat is covering it.
Monsters created from captured maidens. If you listen carefully, you can hear them crying. At some point, the knowledge in the archives sends Seath mad. It's impossible to know whether he was insane before or after his experiments on the maidens, but one way or another, Gwyn turns a blind eye to the happenings in the archives. Perhaps it was this that led to the rebellion against the gods.
I can't picture Seath being in a laboratory, like with glasses on, kind of like taking notes and like doing shit. It's so weird to give a laboratory to a dragon. Just can't really picture him doing shit. Yeah, a lab coat, got a little beaker bubbling and shit, and being like, "Hey Marie, can you write down a positive on test subject 3? Thank you so much." Really weird.
In the war against the dragons, Lord Gwyn had a friend and compatriot named Havel the Rock, who was the sworn enemy of magic and Seath the Scaleless. After the war, Gwyn granted Seath dukedom and a part of his own soul. Perhaps Havel was bitter at Gwyn's preference for Seath, since he started to collect items capable of killing the gods. Hidden in his basement in Anor Londo, there is an occult club. Items of the occult can kill the gods and are rightly feared. Havel was also a bishop of the church, who knew the whereabouts of the Dark Ember. Lastly, the effigy shield states that there was once an ill-fated plot to destroy the gods. Ill-fated because the attempt failed. Among the royalty, there are rumors of a hero locked away in a stone cell by a dear friend. They say he was locked away for his own good, which led many to believe that the man inside had gone hollow. Havel helped Gwyn win his throne, but met with the fate of the undead and was kept in a cell so he could not harm others. That's what they would have you believe. But what if Gwyn learnt of Havel's plan to kill the gods? Perhaps Havel was not hollow when he was locked away. Perhaps he was locked away for the good of the realm, and left to hollow in the middle of an area overrun by hollows.
Damn. That's depressing as hell.
Gwyn would have locked his friend away for the greater good, but was it the right thing to do? This marks the peak of the Age of Fire, and the darkness is looming. Soon Gwyn will need all the friends he can get.
Soon, I will be consumed by them, by the dark.
The dark is in every human.
Thou art strong, human. Surely thine kind are more than pure dark.
But do humans have light and dark within them? Even in his last moments, Artorias thought so.
God, Artorias is so cool.
The spread of the abyss must be stopped.
The furtive pygmy was the first human. It claimed the dark soul and waited for the fire to subside. For while the other souls grew weaker, the dark soul grew stronger. The Lord Souls of light and dark seemed to be in counterbalance to one another. While Gwyn fathered the Age of Fire and set up his kingdom, the pygmy shattered the dark soul and fathered humanity. This mysterious black sprite was the powerful life force of humans, driving them to love, hate, create, and destroy. The most pure-hearted humans were able to create more humanity within themselves. The dark soul is unique in that it can grow and spread through humans. By the time the furtive pygmy was killed, it was already too late. The dark soul had already been split, and it continued to split and grow like a disease.
This part was so weird.
And as the darkness grew, the flames did fade, and Gwyn's kingdom began to fall. With the fading flame came the rising dark, and those who would see it grow stronger. The dragons and the giants were not the only things in the Age of Ancients. From the stone dragons came drakes, hydras, and primordial serpents. You have to wonder at how much influence the serpents have had, because all throughout the ages the serpents have always achieved their desires at the expense of others. We know of one serpent, Karth, who hides in the shadows to see the shadows grow. It was the manipulations of such a serpent that led to an upturned grave, and the doom of Ulasil.
Believe it or not, Ulasil has brought the abyss upon itself, fooled by that toothy serpent. They upturned the grave of primeval man, and incited his ornery wrath. What could they have been thinking?
Manus, the father of the abyss, primeval human and once the furtive pygmy, unleashed the wrath of the dark upon
Damn, Manus was the furtive pygmy? What the hell? That's wild, dude. Oh, Vati's very handsome. Yeah, Vati is a very handsome dude. That's cool as shit. I'm sure they said that in the last episode. I just didn't catch it.
To see the shadows grow. It was the manipulations of such
And also, I never caught the little tomb right here.
serpent that led to an upturned grave and the doom of Ulasil.
Believe it or not, Ulasil has brought the abyss upon itself, fooled by that toothy serpent. They upturned the grave of primeval man, and incited his ornery wrath. What could they have been thinking?
Manus, the father of the abyss, primeval human and once the furtive pygmy, unleashed the wrath of the dark upon Ulasil, corrupting and transforming its denizens into monsters.
Dude, Ulasil sucked.
Right, Artorias came to stop this.
God.
But such a hero has never...
I really want a figurine of Artorias. He just immediately, with the little tidbits of story you all were giving me during that DLC playthrough, immediately became the coolest character. And also, he looks badass. They gleaned over in the first video, lumped him in amongst several pygmy lords, didn't outright mention that Manus was the actual furtive pygmy. That's super sick. Give him a firm handshake to whoever designed Artorias. So cool.
into monsters.
Knight Artorius came to stop this. But such a hero has nary a murmur of dark. Without doubt he will be swallowed by the abyss, overcome by its utter blackness. Indeed, the abyss may be unstoppable.
Got it, Cam.
And Artorius was slain, but a hero from a time distant yet near killed the primeval human in his name and ended its rampage. But Karth simply moved on to his next target. Gwyn split his own soul and handed it to the four kings who ruled over New Londo. It was a reward for their foresight, but the kings only wanted more power.
Long ago, the four kings were powerful men. Only their hearts were weak. When an evil serpent dangled the art of life drain before them, they were unable to resist and became pawns of evil.
Gwyn had already seen what happened in Ulasil. The spread of the abyss had to be contained wherever it was found. He flooded New Londo in an attempt to seal the darkness and the kings.
Oh shit.
It was around this time that the other gods started to panic. The goddesses Fina and Velka had already been forcibly exiled by Seath, and Gwyn's own daughter...
I don't even know who Fina and Velka are. I don't remember hearing those names a whole lot. Everything is fucking Peter Frampton's fault, Melissa. Everything's Framp's fault. Oh, what's Washburn asking? So you're telling me this big-ass serpent was once the first human who got the dark soul, which then split other humans and made them all bad, and the cast of salesman says humans weren't bad, the giants considered them bad, and that became the opinion. Oh, we'll see Fina and Velka more in Dark Souls 3. They were mentioned in lore and other rings.
Exiled by Seath.
Thank you for the support.
And Gwyn's own daughter Guinevere was to follow. She fled with the flame god, Flan, and abandoned her father.
Flan?
Meanwhile,
the Mexican
witch of
delicacy.
Izalith was working on a plan. She was attempting to duplicate the first flame using her own magic and her lord soul. Perhaps this could fight off the gathering dark. But this plan did not work. In fact, it backfired, engulfing the witch, her sisters, and the city of Izalith. Her soul of life became twisted, creating malformed, demonic, chaotic life.
Oh, freak.
And the world saw its first demons. The Silver Knights of Gwyn still remained from the war against the dragons, and they were ordered to fight against the Chaos Demons. Despite the bravery of the knights, they were repelled by the bed of chaos. The Silver Knights retreated to Gwyn with armor blackened and charred from their journey to Izalith. They had failed. Gwyn's downfall is absolute. He's lost his kingdom, his knights, his wife, children, and friends. For the stronger the light, the thicker the shadows fall. There are no happy endings in Lordran. Even if you do no wrong, tragedy finds you. Maybe you're searching for the light in a dark place.
Aww.
Maybe you're fighting to keep your sister alive. Whether you're adventuring for the sake of adventure, or risking your life for your lord, it will do no good.
Wow, look at Artori's. Was that the
But
Artori's
despite
armor?
futility, we do these things anyway. By fighting against the inevitable, we carve meaning from meaninglessness. Gwyn travels to the kiln with his remaining knights, and sacrifices himself as fuel for the first flame, just so it can burn a little longer for the living. The dark will eventually overcome the fading flame, but not without a fight.
The Curse of the Undead Origin... The Curse... Oh, I thought it said Origin 8. The Curse of the Undead originates when Gwyn links the flame, granting some humans eternal life until they lose their humanity. The black armor of the Silver Knights becomes warped and twisted by the force of the rekindled flame, and they develop horns and a demonic appearance. The disembodied spirits remain inside the armor. Chosen undead awakens in his cell many years later. But will he fight against the dark or accept it as the age of man? I would just accept it, right? Like at that point, you can't really do a whole, like, I'd just be like, my hands are tied. Sorry. Like I'm really busy. Got a lot of stuff going on. It's just a cycle of misery. I love how dark and just absolutely depressing all these stories are. All right, next video is not from Vati. It's from Viserys. All right, let's do this. Oh, this is cool. Get different people telling me stuff. Versiris.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog, a land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity, heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came, and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nitro, the first of the dead.
Nito!
The witch of Izalith, and her daughters of chaos. Gwyn, the lord of sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone scales. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease.
Miasma's a
and
great
Seath
word.
the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. Though eventually, the first flame flickered and waned, and so too did the power of the lords, who feared the coming Age of Dark. Desperate, the Witch of Izalith attempted to recreate a new flame using her soul of life, but instead chaos emerged, corrupting the witch and her daughters, and spreading across the land, giving birth to wicked demons. Left with no other choice, Gwyn divided his soul of light amongst his disciples and sacrificed himself to the flame, prolonging the Age of Fire another 1,000 years.
The ultimate
But
sacrifice
soon the
play.
flames will fade, and only dark will.
Those are the plays that don't show up on the stat sheet, you know what I mean? We talk about all the other wins, but sacrificing yourself to continue the fire for another 1,000 years, that's wild.
Remain. Even now there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights.
Look at the Onion Knight
And
down there.
amongst the living are seen carriers of the dark
Hey,
side.
fuck you, dude.
That brands the undead.
I fucked you up.
Those who are cursed to be reborn after death, but eventually degenerate into insanity. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north, where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This was to be the fate of one particular lowly undead. Or so he thought. He awoke, cold and frail, to a heavy thud in his cell. A body.
That's me.
And a key. A knight peered down from the skylight above. After unlocking his cell, the undead found his savior slouched on the ground and near death.
I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you.
Oh, it wasn't me,
You
sorry.
and I, we're both undead. Hear me out, will you? Regrettably, I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family, "Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords, when thou ringeth the bell of awakening."
When this dude attacked me, when I came back, totally forgot who he was. Everybody's like, remember him? He was laying down. I was like, oh, yeah, of course, man. Of course that's you. You know? Like when you forget somebody in real life. Of course you're here. This is you. Yeah, you're yeah.
The fate of the undead thou shalt know.
Finally, after an eternity of rotting away day after day, there was hope. His purpose, having lifted his withered heart, the now chosen undead was swept away to Lordran. The kingdom was teeming with undead, lost souls waiting to go hollow.
I love
And
this art
those who
style.
already had. Some were overcome with the
Aw.
nihilism of the age. Only few still were emboldened with faith. Or perhaps they were just fools. The task was simple. ring the bells and discover the true fate of the undead. Getting there was proving more difficult. After countless struggles and clashing of steel, after climbing the tallest castle and traversing the deepest depths,
What's up, girl?
both bells were rung, and a serpentine creature arose from the darkness.
Cramped.
Chosen undead, your fate is to succeed the great Lord Gwyn, so that you may link the fire, cast away the dark, and undo the curse of the undead. To this end, you must visit Anorlondo and acquire the Lord Vessel.
I'm sick
Fill
of this
the
dude.
vessel with powerful souls, commensurate to the great soul of Gwyn. Scarce few possess such brilliant souls. Grave Lord Nitro, the Witch of Izalith, the 4 kings of New Londo, who inherited the shards of Gwyn's soul, and Lord Gwyn's former confidant, Seath the Scaleless.
Collecting the Great Lord's souls would be no easy feat.
I love this art
with
style.
Each fallen fiend, the chosen undead grew stronger. The vessel would need to be retrieved, but
He went on to destroy Ornstein and Smaug in one try, proving to the gamers that he was the ultimate gamer.
was guarded by powerful servants of the king. Proving his strength,
Proving. He just said the word for. I predicted it. I predicted it, dude.
Proving his strength, the chosen undead was granted audience with the beautiful Guinevere, daughter of Lord Gwyn and Princess of Sunlight.
O chosen undead, I have awaited thee. I bequeath the Lord Vessel to thee, and beseech thee. Succeed Lord Gwyn, and inheriteth the fire of our world. Thou shalt endeth this eternal twilight, and avert further undead sacrifice.
The funniest thing about this part, I will never forget, was all of the hints on the ground that said, chest ahead, big chest ahead, chest ahead. And I was like, uh-oh, what's going to happen in this room? And God damn it, gamers are the worst, but also the best. Try 2 hands, yeah. That was one of the worst. I thought I was about to fight a boss with all the try 2 hands, everybody.
Of our world, thou shalt endeth this eternal twilight, and avert further undead sacrifices.
The vessel would now need to be filled with the powerful Lord's souls, and it was time to pay their owners a visit. Nito, keeper of the soul of death, who slumbered motionless in his crypt, got a rather rude awakening. Seath the Scaleless, gone mad in his pursuit of sorcery, locked up the feisty undead. But iron bars could hold him no longer.
Wow, that was awesome.
The Witch of Izalith, deformed and confined to her bed of chaos, thrashed with all
Fuck
her
you.
might. The landscape was treacherous indeed, but with a leap of faith, the monstrosity was felled. The final soul hid in the blackness of the abyss. The chosen undead journeyed deeper and deeper into shadow. The dark was thick and heavy, but the ring of a fallen knight would keep him safe from the encroaching corruption. The 4 kings emerged from the vacant abyss,
Cool fight.
surrounding the undead. But, one by one, with a flash of his sword, the kings were no more.
Undead warrior, conqueror of the...
Yeah, I see somebody in chat. Green Manny says, oh shit, that was the witch. Yeah, I would have never guessed that the Bed of Chaos, that awful tree monster, terrible boss, was the Witch of Izalith. Crazy. Would have never known. Awful boss fight.
Surrounding the undead. But, one by one, with a flash of his sword, the kings were no more.
Undead warrior, conqueror of the 4 kings.
A familiar, devilish, toothy grin crept into view.
I am the primordial serpent, Darkstalker Kath. I can guide thee, and illuminate the truth.
You sound just like
Your
my buddy
ancestor
Framped.
claimed the dark soul and waited for fire to
Our
subside.
ancestor.
And soon the flames did fade, and only dark remained. Lord Gwyn trembled at the dark by sacrificing himself to link the fire and commanding his children to shepherd the humans. Gwyn has blurred your past to prevent the birth of the Dark Lord. You must destroy the fading Lord Gwyn, who has coddled fire and resisted nature, and become the fourth Lord, so that you may usher in an age of dark.
And now, a dilemma. Which primordial serpent was to be trusted?
Damn.
Either way, the Lord of Cinder himself needed to be conquered. With the Lord Vessel engorged and placed upon the altar, the great door guarding Gwyn was opened. The smell of ash and dying ember on the stale air.
The best song.
Still nursing the first flame, Gwyn turned on the intruder and challenged him to a final duel. The chosen undead, embodying the souls of great knights, beasts, and even demons, and burning with their collective power, dealt the final blow to the ancient lord. With Gwyn defeated, the undead...
The player ran into the room, and they traded kills. I don't know if y'all watched me actually kill Gwyn at the end. My fourth attempt, we traded. We both died. We both hit each other and we both died. And that would have been the best ending. If Miyazaki had somehow orchestrated an ending, a magical ending, if you both trade attacks and you both die at the same time, that would have been the coolest thing of all time. But no, I had to go back in there, and then I just destroyed his bitch ass. It was just parry after parry. We got fucking Perry Sanders over here. We got fucking Perry Tyler Moore. It was nuts, dude. It was nuts. Luke Perry, insane, dude.
Undead, embodying the souls of great knights, beasts, and even demons, and burning with their collective power, dealt the final blow to the ancient lord. With Gwyn defeated, the undead had one final task: the fate of all chosen undead. Reignite the flame and perpetuate the age of fire, or allow the flame to dwindle and bring about the age of man. Which path was chosen? Only the gods know.
The Nitro rifle selected the only option he saw in front of him. And then chat immediately began to laugh because he was clueless. He had no idea what to do. Let's get information on the artist. Some people were asking. It looks like it's just Versiris, yes. Versiris is the animator / artist doing all the art. Looks like they also do a lot of Pokemon videos. But they haven't uploaded in a while, it doesn't look like. Yeah, they uploaded 2 months ago.
Most AAA titles these days are pretty predictable. You have the hero, the villain, the polite dialogue choice, the rude dialogue choice, the bad guys, the good guys, and all the meaningless choices along the way. If you're watching my videos, then you should already know that Dark Souls breaks the...
Alright, I will not stand for the Mass Effect shit talking, Vati, okay? Figure your shit out. Alright. I will not stand. We're no longer watching Vati videos anymore.
Most AAA titles these days are pretty predictable. You have the hero, the villain, the polite dialogue choice, the rude dialogue choice, the bad guys, the good guys, and all the meaningless choices along the way.
Meaningless choices. If you fucking kill people in part 1, they don't show up in part 2. But if you let them live in part 1, then you get a whole new fucking mission structures in part 2. Get the fuck out of here, Vati. Jesus.
If you're watching my videos, then you should already know that Dark Souls breaks the mold. Most games either have one canon ending or allow you to choose from a selection of moral minefield endings at the end of the game. Dark Souls is the latter, but the endings are ambiguous as hell. The more you learn about the game, the more confusing the endings become. Most games give you closure, but both Dark Souls endings probably leave you wondering what would happen next. What consequence would my choice have in the game world? The first ending we'll analyze is the Link the Fire ending. You sacrifice your body and soul as fuel for the first flame, which keeps the gods in power. We'll call this the Light ending. Your other choice is letting the flame die out, allowing you to become the Dark Lord and ushering in the Age of Man. Let's call this the Dark ending. Now, this video assumes you have some idea of what's going on in the Dark Souls universe. If you don't, I have a Dark Souls lore in a minute video you could watch, or you could brush up on the fundamentals presented by Epic Namebro. To properly understand the endings, you must understand what makes them significant. In the beginning, the 4 Lord Souls were found within the first flame. Gwyn obtained the Light Soul and ushered in an Age of Fire based around that first flame. This Age of Fire meant that the gods and the lords were in control of the world, ruling over humanity. They lit bonfires from the first flame and shepherded the humans. But where did the humans come from? Well, it's my theory that humanity is spawned from the fragments of the Dark Soul. As humanity split and grew, the dark began to overcome the light. This concept of disparity plays a huge role in the game. As the first flame faded, the light faded, and as the light faded, the power of Gwyn and the Age of Fire faded. As the gods started to lose their power, they began to recognize the threat that humanity could pose. It seems the gods couldn't decide what to make of humanity.
This is definitely from Dark Souls 3. That looks too good.
We see some of
no, wait, how old is this video? Those cutscenes looked way too good. Where were they from? Oh, they had to have been from part 1. They're in 2013. I quit watching SNL Live because I care about you more than Nick Jonas. I hope you appreciate that. Thanks for the 300, Kento. Hydrate. Drowder was cool.
If you aid them, they decide that humans aren't so bad to lose their power. They began to recognize the threat that humanity could pose. It seems the gods couldn't decide what to make of humanity. In the dialogues of Kiaran and Goff, we see some of this uncertainty. If you aid them, they decide that humans aren't so bad after all. But if you slight them, then they treat you with that built-up resentment.
So this is true human nature.
Let's get some fucking... Let's get some audio mixing going here about it. Jesus Christ. It was so loud. I had to lower it.
The flame continues to fade. The gods abandon Anor Londo, and the remaining gods use illusions to preserve their power. Gwyn, holder of the Light Soul, goes to the kiln of the first flame and offers himself as fuel. He sacrifices himself to let the flame burn a little longer. This buys the gods a bit more time to find a solution to their problem. You are that solution. By linking the fire, you become the fuel for the first flame. With you in Gwyn's place, the Age of Fire can continue. But what makes you so special? Well, the character is a very powerful undead if they can make it all the way to Gwyn, and it follows that the more powerful you are, the longer you will burn. It could be that this is why Frampt is trying to push undead towards Gwyn. He's trying to find the one who will burn the longest.
That's cool.
So by burning in Gwyn's place, you have to ask yourself what purpose it serves. You're preserving the reign of the gods and rising to the needs of a dying hierarchy. It's not even a temporary solution. Gwyn was powerful enough to take out the immortal dragons, and even he became a husk by the end. So while you could see linking the flame as a selfless act, it's hard to imagine that you're doing it for any greater purpose. Indeed, if you link the flame, you are rising to the needs of people who could simply be using you. So, is this the good ending? At first glance, it seems like it. Most players go through the game only meeting the serpent Frampt, who promises that linking the flame will undo the curse of the undead. He talks of fate and gives you purpose. So at first, I thought this was the right thing to do. I didn't know that Anor Londo and Guinevere were illusions. I didn't know I was being used, and I thought I was being selfless. But then I heard what Karth had to say. He says that after the advent of fire, the ancient lords found 3 souls, but your progenitor found the Dark Soul, and waited for fire to subside. He says that with the fading flame comes the Age of Man. He paints Gwyn as a god who resisted the course of nature, and says that you are being manipulated by Frampt to keep Gwyn's Age of Fire
Damn,
going.
Feels bad, dude. I got manipulated hard.
And walking away from the first flame, Karth promises that the dark will finally come, and with it, the Age of Man will begin. At first, I thought that Karth's hidden dialogue was the truth. It makes sense. When you realize that Frampt is manipulating you, you feel like you should believe everything Karth has to say. It seems like Karth is telling the whole truth. But is he telling the whole truth? Is the darkness really a place where humans can thrive? Humans are born from the dark soul, that much is true. The Black Humanity sprite is proof of that. But when we journey back to see what happened in Ulasil, we realize how dangerous the dark is to humans. Ulasil was once a human city, overrun by the dark. These are its residents, and this is the fate of the humans who come into contact with the dark. This is the age of man that Karth promises. One serpent tells you lies, and the other tells you truth. Both of them are manipulating you. If you link the fire, you are sacrificing yourself so that Frampt and Gwyndolin can rule with the illusion of power in Anor Londo. If you let the flame fade, the age of dark will come. But is this a place where humans thrive? No, Ulasil is proof of that. In the end, it doesn't matter what you do. If you link the flame, you're just delaying the inevitable. If you let the flame fade, the darkness comes a little sooner, with you at the helm. The one canon ending to Dark Souls is in the prologue. One day the flame will fade, and only dark will remain. So instead of choosing an ending, just go and live with Priscilla or something.
Well, too bad I killed her too. I killed her ass. So interesting, Vati. It just seems like any choice you make is pointless, huh? I'm just really pissed off about his Mass Effect comments. What's up with that, dude? Yeah, I killed the fuck out of Priscilla, Cam. Beat the shit out of her. Fucking chopped her in half. Ate the body. I didn't know to talk to her though. I didn't even know to talk to her. You walk into this room and you see this big ass woman with a tail. And as I was walking up to her, I kept on seeing messages on the ground. And then as I got closer, I thought I kept on seeing text pop up, text prompts. And the text prompt was talk, because I could have engaged in a conversation with her. But in my peripheral vision, I thought those pop-ups, those prompts, were to read messages on the ground that other players left. And so I killed her, and it was a kind of a cool fight. Kind of a cool fight. And he will be on his deathbed defending. Look, I'm not defending my choice to kill her. I didn't know that I could not kill her, you know? It wasn't until I fucking got to the end that y'all were like, you could have talked to her, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't know. My bad. She's dead now. She should have said something, right? Say something to me. Say something, anything. These Twitch ads are murder. $5 and you can watch ad-free. Her fault entirely, Andrew. This warning goes out to any NPC in the future. Shout out to me. Yell at me. Because chances are you're going to look like an enemy or a boss of some sort. And I gotta protect myself, okay?
After you finish a Souls game, you have questions. Why am I on fire? What's the point of locking myself in this cave? Which ending is the right one? And, of course, the age-old question, why do they call him Big Hat Logan? First, let's start with the player character. Who is the chosen undead? Well, they are who you make them. Whether you were a thief or a knight, from Astora or Katarina, it doesn't...
This one will also have other games being mentioned. They will also talk about Dark Souls 2 and 3 in this video. But I don't really care. I don't care if it spoils stuff. I'd like going into it with at least some sort of frame of reference, you know?
From Astora or Katarina, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you ended up in a cell at the right place and the right time, for you head to Lordran in accordance with an old legend that speaks of a mission for a chosen undead hero. This legend is, by the way, most likely a deception by the gods, probably designed to lure powerful heroes to Lordran, but we'll get to that later.
But we'll get to that later.
Outside Lordran.
What did I fucking tell you, chat? Come on, man. Somebody was like, I've never heard Vati ever say that in a video. We'll get to that later.
Is there a world outside Lordran? Lordran is just the land of the gods, and there is a wider world of man with many more countries therein. The fate of the world largely revolves around Lordran though, so we never go to these other places. But the characters we do meet in Lordran often hail from these foreign countries, and you can tell that they've been designed to be accurate characterizations of their homelands. What you're seeing on screen are the results of an art competition to depict these foreign places. So check out that video if you're interested, and subscribe to see the next competition really soon.
Holy
How
crap.
did this world come to be?
That looked like Nitro's
Originally,
world.
the world had no disparity. Everything was just rock, from the land to the trees to the dragons. It was homogeneous, static, without beginning or end. Then, similar to the Big Bang, fire suddenly came to exist, and it disrupted this eternal monotony. Now, there wasn't just existence, but there were states of existence. Heat and cold, light and dark, life and death. The result was a rock universe gradually changing into the world as you see it in-game, including its overabundance of souls. What is a soul? So when fire came to be and permeated the universe, so did souls. Thus, the soul is the power of disparity itself. They are the means by which the first flame changed the universe, and paradoxically, they are both the fuel and the byproduct of that fire. Similar to in Demon Souls, a soul gives you clarity, allowing you to think, but also life, allowing you to be. And just as there are all kinds of life, there are all kinds of souls, of various shapes, sizes, and magical affinities. Many bosses are these special beings with special souls, and the most powerful beings are the lords, bearing Lord Souls. Who are the lords, and what is a Lord Soul? The four lords are the first kings. They were all attracted to the first flame, having only ever known...
That always confused me. I always thought the four lords were the four kings. A little confusing. I guess the Souls games, everything's in fours or whatever, but having a boss called the Four Kings, after hearing a lot about the four lords, really confused the shit out of me.
Who are the lords, and what is a Lord Soul? The four lords are the first kings. They were all attracted to the first flame, having only ever known darkness before coming upon it. Each one discovered this massive concentration of Disparity's power near the flame, which they then used to establish a kingdom under their rule. Thus, these massive souls are called Lord Souls. Of these four souls, Karth tells us that the Pygmy found the Dark Soul, and it follows that the other Lord Souls all aligned with the other aspects of Disparity. So in contrast, Gwyn found the Light Soul, Nitro found the Death Soul, and the Witch of Izalith found the Life Soul. These souls came to define them, and they would soon ally together to challenge the Everlasting Dragons. What is an Everlasting Dragon? So they're a part of the original race of dragons that predate life itself. Much like there are wyverns and worms, there are also ancient dragons, or archdragons as later games coin it. Their race is the progenitor to all other dragon subspecies, and these are subspecies that adapted really well to a new world and new environments.
That's so sick.
You still face some archdragons in-game, but these archdragons never are the original generation of archdragons that actually predate fire. The ancient dragons are commonly described as everlasting, thanks to their stone scales of undeath, granting them immortality. However, when Gwyn learned that his bolts of lightning could peel apart those scales, the lords used their full might to hunt down the archdragons to nigh extinction, ushering in the Age of Fire. What is the Age of Fire? It's the era you find yourself in. It was sparked when the lords defeated the archdragons, and even as far back as them finding their lord souls could be denoted as the dawn or beginning of the Age of Fire. So what follows is this period dominated by the lords. Much of this epoch is also denoted as the Age of Gods, since the three lords residing in Lordran with their fellow deities are on the rise or at their zenith during it. However, this golden age can only continue so long as fire at the source of the god's power remains strong. But eventually, fire will fade, and only darkness will remain. This, quote, is what Karth describes as the logic of the world. And when that happens, the gods...
This is so far my favorite video. So far, this is my favorite video. Very, very good. It's David Attenborough. No, it's Vati.
will remain. This, quote, is what Karth describes as the logic of the world. And when that happens, the gods are supposed to be replaced, and their Age of Fire is supposed to become an Age of Dark. In the original Dark Souls, you find yourself at this crossroad. The first flame is about to go out. Even now, its power is barely reaching the world of man, and what follows is a proverbial night. And in this twilight era, the undead curse runs rampant. Okay, so, what is the undead curse? Ever since the first flame began to wane, a dark ring of fire has manifested upon the bodies of certain humans, a sign of the dark burgeoning within them. This dark sign marks you as an ageless immortal, though your endless revival comes at the cost of your own souls and sanity until you eventually hollow. What caused the undead curse? This question is at the very heart of this series, and the answer is really quite complex. You'll have a better time with this though if you're familiar with all 3 games. So when the world first began, a creature called the Pygmy found the Dark Soul. Who they were isn't known, nor is it really important. What is important is that they split the Dark Soul into fragments, and these fragments came to be known as humanity, which is a small black spirit found within every human. Karth refers to the furtive Pygmy as your
humanity here, kind of like midi-chlorians. Keep that in mind. Write that down.
Every human. Karth refers to the furtive Pygmy as your ancestor. Thus, we are descended from one of the 4 lords. These games frequently question whether the dark force within humans is a positive or a negative thing. Your adventure through Ulasil in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC is a great example of that. Here, the darkness within man has gone wild.
He's so badass.
Endlessly consuming and corrupting the land and the souls of people around it. And yet, there is dialogue here that's supposed to give you pause.
I still think on that creature from the abyss that preyed upon me. My faculties were far from lucid, but I quite clearly sensed certain emotions. A wrenching nostalgia, a lost joy, an object of obsession, and a sincere hope to reclaim it. Could these thoughts belong to the beast from the abyss? But if that were true, then perhaps it is no beast after all.
This same duality is seen in the descriptions of dark magic, which...
Was she on the ground after I killed him? Was she the one? That was her? Oh, shit. I probably talked to her after the fact. I just don't remember that. I don't remember when else I would have talked to her. Oh, she's what kicks off the fucking DLC. Oh, shit. Wow. Wow, that's wild. Wow, this game's nuts.
Hope to reclaim it. Could these thoughts belong to the beast from the abyss? But if that were true, then perhaps it is no beast after all.
This same duality is seen in the descriptions of dark magic, which are spells that are often driven by powerful emotions, positive things like love and calm, or negative things like hate and envy. But whether it's positive or negative, Gwyn's pantheon fears the dark, for one day, as we mentioned earlier, their age of fire is going to end, and only dark will remain. This was the logic of the world, until Gwyn committed the first sin, and he shackled the darkness within man. This was a revelation we received in the Ringed City DLC, where the seal of fire around darkness on the dark sign was finally explicitly stated to be a creation of the gods. So for some, like Manus in the first DLC, repression of their humanity causes it to writhe and go mad. However, this seal of fire was placed upon mankind so early in their existence that, for most people, their shackles are all that they know. As a result, and this is really important, humankind end up living their lives through souls that they hold completely separate from the humanity that's within them. You only have to look to the white souls of adventurers that you find in-game as proof of that. Living like this is the lie that Aldia talked about in Dark Souls 2.
All men trust fully the illusion of life.
Wow.
But is this so wrong? A construction, a facade, and yet a world full of warmth and resplendence. Young Hollow, are you intent on shattering the yoke, spoiling this wonderful falsehood?
But in retrospect...
Dude, this is cool as shit. Oh my god. Wild.
The most chilling dialogue Aldia has was this.
Once, the Lord of Light banished dark and all that stemmed from humanity. And men assumed a fleeting form.
We're led to believe that the dark sign cursed humanity with undeath, but Aldia's dialogue means this can't be true. Instead, Aldia says mankind's lives became fleeting when they were branded with the dark side. So this means that they were originally immortals, and indeed this is the state that you return to when you hollow. What is hollowing? Humanity once stood proud within every human, but when the curse was put upon them, humanity became bound, lost, and repressed. So during this age of fire, humanity came to rely heavily on their white soul for their sense of self, and we can see this in the names of these souls. When fire fades, the seal of fire restraining the dark grows weaker. Thus, when fire fades, it follows that our dark soul starts to break free, consuming the white soul that we've come to believe is the self, and this process of losing the self is called hollowing. Dying or...
Fucking... This shit's crazy, dude. This shit's crazy, dude. God damn. How do you think of this shit? How do you not just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and then think, you know what, this probably doesn't work out, never mind. I scrap everything I just wrote. That's wild.
Or losing heart, it accelerates this process. So, an undead must maintain physical and mental fortitude in order to resist this process. However, as you might remember, the Hollows of Londor in Dark Souls 3 believe that their hollow states are really the most honest shape of
Look at the invisible sword.
This isn't an easy truth to face, especially since the Dark Soul has become this ravenous, repressed
Hold on, I missed that. I was so focused on the sword.
As you might remember, accelerates this process. Straining the dark grows weaker. Thus, when fire fades, it follows that our dark soul starts to break free, consuming the white soul that we've come to believe is the self, and this process of losing the self is called hollowing. Dying or losing heart, it accelerates this process. So, an undead must maintain physical and mental...
So that's why Homeboy at Firelink, it says, you know, if you lose heart... And he was so who they called the nihilist. That's why we ended up fighting him, because he just gave up on life and ended up going hollow.
Heart, it accelerates this process. So, an undead must maintain physical and mental fortitude in order to resist this process.
Crestfallen.
However, as you might remember, the Hollows of Londor in Dark Souls 3 believe that their hollow states are really the most honest shape of man. This isn't an easy truth to face, especially since the Dark Soul has become this ravenous, repressed thing. To stay sane as a hollow, one may need to drain the life of others, and the Hollows of Londor are universally reviled as a result of this. Ultimately, it just leaves you wondering whether this is really the best path for mankind, or whether it's better to just accept the shackles of the gods, or whether humanity's fate has been stolen by the curse.
Internet grandfather, same, dude. I would turn the hollow so fast. I live in a constant state of negativity and self-deprecation. I would just immediately... It would be so fast, dude. Self-doubt. Wanting to give up. Holy shit. I'd be a Dark Lord.
And the Hollows of Londor are universally reviled as a result of this. Ultimately, it just leaves you wondering whether this is really the best path for mankind, or whether it's better to just accept the shackles of the gods, or whether humanity's fate has been stolen by the curse, either way. How do we cure the undead curse? Well, curse is an actual affliction, just like poison or toxin. You can experience its build-up in-game, and what this curse does is it locks the dark soul away from the self. It's really about the barrier, it's about the separation, and the Dark Sigil explains this. It says that as humanity leaks out, the curse accumulates in exchange. Unfortunately, humans are helpless against curses, and all we can do is redirect their influence. For example, when you use a purging stone, what you're doing is not actually curing the curse, you're actually just transferring the curse to this stone, and this stone was or is another person. In the original Dark Souls, we do something similar to this process called reverse hollowing. So this is a process that requires you to have a humanity. And it's easy to assume that we're just absorbing the humanity and restoring our humanity, but what's actually happening here is kind of the opposite. Yes, a humanity sprite is taken into the self, but it then acts as a sort of surrogate for the curse, like a purging stone does.
Yo, what up,
And
J-Toss?
remember, we offer this humanity up to the bonfire. This keeps our white, regular soul safe, and it prevents us from going hollow.
Me too,
Further
Gino.
proof of this dynamic exists in Dark Souls 2, where using a human effigy is just like transferring your curse.
Mark that down also, chat. Effigy, good-ass word. Put that on the list of good-ass words. Effigy. Colloquialism, also put that there.
To a human surrogate. Regular soul safe, and it prevents us from going hollow. Further proof of this dynamic exists in Dark
Voila,
Souls 2,
ass
where
word.
using
I
a
saw that
human
back and
effigy
forth in
is
chat.
just like transferring your curse to a human surrogate. And in Dark Souls 3, we found the Purging
Thank you,
Monument,
Melissa.
which is this enormous vessel that's overflowing with offered curses. Why did the gods curse humanity? So the logic of the world denotes that fire will fade and only dark will remain. Naturally, Gwyn feared this and managed to enforce a
God, I wish I had this Hollows. I wish I had this Hollows like metabolism. Looking cut, you know, looking real cut.
curses. Dark Souls 2, where using a human effigy is just like transferring your curse to a human surrogate. And in Dark Souls 3, we found the Purging Monument, which is this enormous vessel that's overflowing with offered curses.
So gross.
Why did the gods curse humanity? So the logic of the world denotes that fire will fade and only dark will remain. Naturally, Gwyn feared this and managed to enforce a fleeting form upon humanity. The fate of mankind became irreversibly linked to fire, and thus the logic of the world was changed forever. What is the fire linking? It's a ritual for preserving the first flame. With the decline of fire and the rise of the dark and undeath, the gods were thrown into disarray, and the Lord's peaceful relations ultimately collapsed. Before things broke down, however, they concocted a plan to revive the first flame with a powerful soul, cultivated through firekeepers and undead bonfires. This soul would link itself to the fire, and the fire would inherit a new fuel. So Gwyn was the first to link the fire, and many others have taken up that role since then. What is a bonfire? It's your safe haven. Undead bonfires are fueled by the bones of your own kind, and they're connected to the first flame as a part of a network through coiled swords. The heat that their flames produce heal our injuries and can be collected in a liquid form called estus. As for warping, light is tied to time in this series, so you can reason that a bonfire's light allows you to warp across time and space to other bonfires in the network. Bonfires and their firekeepers promote undead reliance upon fire, and they promote fire's reliance upon undead. Thus, the gods are almost certainly behind their creation. As for who went out and placed them in the world, it's hard to say, but it seems like they can be placed anywhere where there are undead bones, since
Which vid is this? This is Dark Souls lore explained by Vati Vidya. Posted. Holy shit, this was only posted last year. July 10th, 2020. Damn, I would have assumed this is just way older. She's from Dark Souls 3. I like her, I love her.
Who went out and placed them in the world, it's hard to say, but it seems like they can be placed anywhere where there are undead bones, since we create one ourselves in Firelink Shrine, and even in early versions of the game, you were supposed to be able to place them yourself. However, it's important to remember that bonfires are primarily a checkpoint mechanic, and gameplay can't always be explained away by lore. For example, you might think that all undead respawn at the bonfire just like you do, but they don't. According to the Crestfallen Merchant, what actually happens is that undead will lay dead for a while and then later rise where they fell. What is a firekeeper?
Bullshit.
They're a woman who acts as the living incarnation of a bonfire in order to preserve its flame. So long as the firekeeper lives, so too does her corresponding bonfire, and vice versa. These women are thus vessels for the countless humanity that is offered to the bonfire, which means that they receive the dark spirits along with the effects of the curse in the transfer. The humanity wriggles beneath their skin, nipping at body and soul, and this causes great pain and horrific scarring, though not at extremities like the head or the hands. Firekeepers bear this suffering so that you can benefit from the bonfire, and it's through them and
women get shit done, dude. Fucking men are useless. We're useless, dude.
like the head or the hands. Firekeepers bear this suffering so that you can benefit from the bonfire, and it's through them, and by extension the bonfires, that you can strengthen your soul with whatever traits you desire. So be sure to always thank your oh shit. What is wrong with you? What is a god? Well, they're really whatever humans believe a deity to be. In most cases, the gods refers to members of Gwyn's pantheon, since they're the most widely worshipped in the world of man.
Just don't look.
But even
look
those
face,
cast
look
out,
face,
like
Andy.
Gwyn's firstborn, are still called a war god, simply because some people still worship them as such. However, just being worshipped doesn't mean that you have power. An example of this is Faris, who humans retroactively deified as the goddess of the hunt Evlana in Dark Souls 2. She was just a heroic bowwoman, but her story got twisted over the years until she became a god. People get kind of hung up on the god term because they're trying to define the race of beings that carry power in the series. For most of these characters, I quite like the term medial, which is a term proposed by Loki. What are medials? Well, many of the gods' followers and descendants aren't human, gods or giants, so we kind of have to make up a term for these beings. Medials is good.
Just, how about, nah, fuck medials, Vati. Call them super fucking badass guys, you know? Because Artorias, you look at him, he's a super fucking badass guy, you know, right? SF bag, super fucking badass guy.
What are medials? Well, many of the gods' followers and descendants aren't human, gods or giants, so we kind of have to make up a term for these beings.
He's so cool.
Medials is good. In terms of size, they're often between humans and giants, and these are beings like the daughters of Izalith, or Priscilla, and so on. What are the dead?
Priscilla,
The dead
I didn't mean
are
to kill
corpses
everybody.
that decay without the power of life sustaining them. However, some, like skeletons, are often a product of necromancy, and there's evidence that others, like the ghosts of New Londo, become warped by the strong, lingering emotions of the deceased. What is a demon?
What that mouth
Anything
do,
that
girl?
can be loosely classified as a monster is called a demon, really. In most cases, though, demons refers to chaos demons who were born of the flame of chaos. But there are also Titanite demons.
Sorry, Melissa.
Dark Souls 2 introduces covetous and smelter demons, as well as a demon of song. It's a common argument that a demon in Dark Souls is a chimeric creature bearing the traits of multiple animals, but this isn't a given. What could be called crow demons are actually called crowmen or corvians. There are also snake men, maggot men, and lion men, all of whom are never called demons. Like with gods, the term is somewhat arbitrary. Basically, a demon is whatever humans would consider to be a monster. What is chaos? Chaos is the nature of fire and life. Life is rooted in the soul. The soul is a product of fire's disparity. Therefore, life, like disparity, is chaotic. The Witch of Izalith found the Lord Soul that represents this, and she tried creating her own fire of life to match that of the first.
Chip Dip, I'm glad you're loving the videos. I recommend everybody go follow and subscribe Vati on social media, YouTube. Again, I think shout out to Tam for introducing me to Vati as a creator, because I've definitely loved diving into the lore.
Fire and life. Life is rooted in the soul. The soul is a product of fire's disparity. Therefore, life, like disparity, is chaotic. The Witch of Izalith found the Lord Soul that represents this, and she tried creating her own fire of life to match that of the first flame. Unfortunately, this sparked a flame of chaos, which creates and transforms new, often grotesque forms of life. These became known as the Chaos Demons, and they threatened Gwyn's rule. So you'll notice that They're stamped out at every turn in all chapters of this series. The Witch of Izalith's yearning for flame became the basis for pyromancy, and pyromancy is one of her strongest surviving legacies. What is pyromancy? Pyromancy is a physical form of magic. Pyromancers carry along with them a piece of flame that's...
I still don't quite know why Homeboy at Firelink left Firelink. I went back and watched that part, and I feel like I didn't tell him to peace out, but he did, and then he went hollow, and then I had to fucking parry his bitch ass. Felt bad.
Pyromancers carry along with them a piece of flame that's passed down from teacher to student, stretching all the way back to the witch and her...
Oh, I told him about chaos magic. He went to go find it, got it. Initially, I thought the dialogue was me banishing him, being like, get out, I don't want you here. And him being like, shit, my bad, dog.
Passed down from teacher to student, stretching all the way back to the witch and her daughters, deriving the art from chaos and sharing that with the humans. Pyromancers then use that flame to conjure their spells, and despite the name, pyromancy isn't actually limited to casting fire, and it can actually conjure all kinds of elements, like iron or poison, but these are rarer arts, since pyromancy is a religion that reveres flame, just so.
And for anybody wondering, a lot of the videos coming up are the Prepare to Cry series, where they are the character deep dives. So several of the characters and bosses, we get to learn their full stories, and those are really sick. Those are the ones that I think Vati really shines in his sort of storytelling.
So you can manifest pyromancies like miracles with your faith, or actually even learn to perform them like sorceries with your intelligence. What is sorcery?
When are we watching
it's
those
a mental
tonight?
form of magic. Sorcerers study the natural laws of the world to actually comprehend what they are and how they function. They then use this knowledge to manipulate their power and formulate the process as spells, which we call sorcery. They're basically magic scientists and academics, and there are sorceries from anything from souls to light to the dark of the abyss. What are miracles? They're a spiritual form of magic. You cast miracles by reciting legendary stories, which either feature the spell in question or embody what the miracle manifests. Most miracles are thereby based on the power of the Anor Londo gods, but there are also dark miracles and hexes that achieve similar results. Your faith in the story's truth makes it a reality. What is the Abyss? It's the power of the dark, and whether that's a pitch-black void, like the Realm of the Four Kings, a viscous dark swamp, like in the Ringed City, or a malformed pus, like the creatures of Lothric, the Abyss can manifest from any humanity.
The hell is that?
It produces new life, or twists old life into new forms.
Some
The
Princess
Abyss is
Mononoke
commonly
shit.
unstable, and like with Manus in Ulasil, it can go wild, devouring and corrupting the souls of every other form of life. But it was not always this way. The gods placed a curse upon the Abyss, and while humans have largely lost connection with it,
there, buddy?
there are multiple sources
Ew.
that suggest the Abyss can offer great comfort to humankind. However, it appears that path was lost when the Abyss was
Stop
banished,
zooming
and
in!
now it simply hungers.
Fucking God.
What is Black Flame? Black Flame is the impenetrable fire of humanity, inspired by the power of our quote-unquote untouchable soul, in kind of a similar way to how pyromancy is inspired by Izalith's soul. What is the deep? As the Age of Dark continues to be delayed, some dark stagnates into the deep, and here the weight of humanity sinks into a horrific abyss, like a deep sea where no light reaches. Many worship the concept of the deep, as these
As this shit kept scrolling up, I'm wondering, like, all right, where does the head begin? What's the fucking head gonna look like? And I just feel like it kept going. I was like, all right, sure enough, surely soon we'll get what the fucking face of this thing looks like. And it's a fucking like a vagina crater kind of thing. God damn.
like a deep sea where no light reaches. Many worship the concept of the deep, as these dregs are seen as the bedrock of the world, and you can almost view the deep as a sort of abyssal religion. Its leader, Aldridge, concluded that if the world continued to darken, then there would eventually be an age of the deep sea. Why is time convoluted? With the first flame waning, the power of light also fades, and since light is related to time, the flow of time has stagnated in a land where the flame is located. Due to this instability, time spaces known as other worlds can randomly intersect here, and this allows you to briefly meet people from long before your timeline. And with the help of magic, you can cross the gaps between worlds, usually as spirits. Why is everything in the world hostile to me? After watching this video, you'll enjoy my video talking about all the bosses of Dark Souls 3 if you've played it. I'll just list a bunch of reasons on screen though, because every enemy does have a reason for attacking you, after all. Except Priscilla. I mean, why did you hurt her? That's actually really fucked up. What is the painted
okay, fucking, come on. Vati, look, I didn't know, okay? The first message I read said, go for the tail. So I'm fucking focused on getting the tail. And I walked into the... Oh, we're gonna watch that back. We're gonna watch back that moment. So you could see how I am just dead focused on walking around her to get the attack in, and all the little prompts keep popping up saying, talk, Andy, talk. And I'm like, oh, I see things popping up, but those are probably messages other players have left saying, like, you gotta kill this fucking cat lady. Gotta kill this cat lady. Gotta kill the cat lady, Andy. Fucking bullshit, dude.
Really fucked up. What is the painted world? The first painting we're introduced to is the painted world of Ariamis, which is hung in an Orlando. It was a place to hide all the things that the gods feared.
I can't believe you've done this.
So it's filled with many references to sin and the occult. In the Ashes of Ariandel DLC, we learn that the paintings are a mirror of the outside world, and so are burned and reborn to mimic the linking of the fire. Just so, there are those on the inside who would prefer to let the painting rot. What is the meaning of each ending? So, in Dark Souls, you're presented with two choices after you defeat the Lord of Cinder. Either you inherit the fire and join the line of succession, preserving the current world order, or you leave the fire to die without fuel, allowing the universe to reach its natural conclusion. By becoming a Lord of Cinder, you sacrifice yourself to restore the light. By becoming a Dark Lord, you choose to lead mankind into a new dark age with an uncertain future. In Dark Souls 2, fire still wanes while the curse still flourishes. You assume a throne inside of a kiln, which takes you to the first flame and the Lord of Cinder, where you'll make one of these two choices. Turns out neither of them really matter, for the world will continue to ebb and flow between light and dark. So maybe you should heed a certain scholar's...
Yeah, let me skip these parts. I don't want to fully know the endings. I do want to just come back to the
It was a
painted world
place
part.
to hide all the things that the gods
like in an Orlando.
feared, and so it's filled with many references to sin and the occult. In the Ashes of Ariandel DLC, we learn that the...
Oh, that's the Dark Souls 3 DLC.
Ash, after all. What is unkindled ash? These are undead who previously tried and failed to link the fire. You weren't strong enough to bear the flame that you inherited, but you weren't weak enough to stay reduced to ash either, and so you became ash, devoid of flame, but still requiring embers as well as souls to heat your cold, cursed frame. Hence, unkindled are destined to seek the fire that remains in the world. How does the series end? Well, it ends with Ash.
No, I don't want to know.
Watch my videos.
Who's the chest? Who is the big, great chest ahead?
Why is Dav in this video? Why is Dav in this video?
Watch my videos.
Who's the chest? Who is the big, great chest ahead?
Her confusion was why I decided to sign you all up to extra classes today, so follow her stream and thank her for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Hey, that's nice, Bravo. I appreciate that. Okay, next video, Solaire and the Sun. This is where we start to get the real depressing shit, where it's the, I believe this is all the character deep dive, prepare to cry type shit.
It's not easy to find the sun in Lordran, and when you do see it, who's to say it's real?
I kind of want to download this video, put it through Premiere, add a couple of equalizer modifiers, add some bass to it, take out the mids.
And the sun in Lordran, and when you do see it, who's to say it's real? The age of fire is ending, and the world is already dark. Logan believes that there are no gods, no transcendence, only power. To become a god is simply to find that power. The lords found their powers amongst the first flame and proclaimed themselves to be gods.
Oh no!
But as the flame fades, the lords must rely on illusions instead of power, until new fuel for the flame is found. As Gwyn burns in his tomb, Gwendolyn and Frampt search desperately for someone to replace him, to maintain their age of light a little longer. Solaire reminds me of the legend of Icarus.
Thank you, Cozy Boy.
Icarus is granted wings and uses them to chase the sun.
Hope you're doing well.
But he flies too close and falls to his death. Solaire has limitless ambition and strives to obtain the sun as well. But he too runs the risk of flying too close. It's hard to find the sun in Lordran, and the world is already dark. Perhaps Solaire is looking for a new light. There is a prophecy that comes from Solaire's homeland in Astora, a prophecy that sheds light on Solaire's quest.
There is an old saying in my family, thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know.
To fulfill the prophecy, you must be two things. You must be undead, and you must escape the asylum. Oscar became undead, and travelled to the asylum to become a part of the prophecy. You carry out his legacy. But Oscar was not the only one trying to become a part of the prophecy. Solaire also escaped the asylum.
The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. Both undead, both imprisoned in the asylum, and now we both end up here, in a land brimming with hollows. Could that really be mere chance? I hardly think so. I became undead to pursue this.
Solaire's quest meant so much that he chose to become undead to fit the prophecy. So if you believe that you are the chosen undead, then you and Solaire are on the same path, and your meeting was not chance, but fate. You can choose to believe that everything in your past led you here. But who was Solaire before he became undead and met you? Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight, had 3 children. One was named Guinevere, who fled her father and Anor Londo as the flame continued to fade. Another was Gwendolyn, born of the moon and raised as a daughter. Master of illusion, he maintains power in Anor Londo through an illusion of his sister and a fake son. The identity of the 3rd child is a mystery. All we know is that he was a god of war, but his foolishness led to the loss of something invaluable, and he had his god status rescinded. Statues were destroyed, and there are places where it is clear that there have been obvious efforts to remove all trace of him ever existing.
This was proven wrong by later stuff, really, Tam? What was proven wrong? Vati's old audio mixing. I mean, it's not old audio mixing, it's just an old microphone, you know? I don't even... You can hear the mouse clicking in the background and stuff. This is old tech. Oh, I see. The fact that he's getting sent. Got it.
Statues were destroyed, and there are places where it is clear that there have been obvious efforts to remove all trace of him ever existing. But in a land far from Anolondo, near an altar dedicated to sunlight, there is one statue that remains. It's the statue of a woman holding a small child, a child wielding a sunlight straight sword. The same sword as Solaire.
Wow.
Solaire never talks of the past, only of the future.
This would have been a lot cooler if it were real.
Son. If he is the son of Gwyn, then he has fallen out of his father's graces. But who is Gwyn to take his powers away? Solaire would have lost his status, and nothing more. Even though his equipment has no special powers, he travels through Lordran with little trouble, reaching Anolondo, Demon's Ruins, and Lost Islith before you. It is said that the god of war still watches over his warriors. Solaire crosses between worlds to help you take down your foes.
I feel the idea that Solaire doesn't really exactly scream God of War to me either. But also, I thought the cat lady with the tail, what's her face? Christine or Elizabeth, forgot her name. I thought she was gonna kill me. So, and not everything's as it seems, chat. Priscilla, there we go. I don't even fucking remember her name. Who cares, dude? She was threatening me. She was threatening me. She said awful stuff about my family.
In the end, it doesn't matter if Solaire is the son of Gwyn. To the world, he's simply a friendly man who helps his comrades when they are in need. He is a man who gave everything he had to find something, despite looking like a fool. But after years of searching, his hope turns to despair.
I think one super important thing worth noting is obviously how underrated a lot of the, not level design, that's not what I'm talking about, but more like set dressing, is the idea that this statue with the woman holding a child, there's just so much storytelling there that if you're just walking by, you think it's just a statue with a woman and a sword and a child. It just seems like nothing at first glance, and it has such huge story and lore implications. It's just so insane.
Son of Gwyn. To the world, he's simply a friendly man who helps his comrades when they are in need. He is a man who gave everything he had to find something, despite looking like a fool.
Because I'll tell you what, when I worked on a medieval game, we just put whatever anywhere. Because, I mean, we didn't really know what the fuck was happening. We just, you know, put this, I made this statue, put this statue everywhere because it looks cool. Put that fucking rock tomb over there. Put this, what, you know, just whatever looks cool as opposed to whatever makes sense for the story.
But after years of searching, his hope turns to despair. And his despair turns to madness.
Finally, I have my very own son. I am the son. I've done it. I have. Yes, I did. I did. Oh.
Were those the same lightning bolts that Gwyn threw at the dragons?
My son, it's setting. It's dark. So dark.
Auto captioning trying its best.
Solaire, a man of indomitable will, loses his mind to a creature that looks like the sun, and dies to your blade. Or does he? Time in Lordran is convoluted, and one undead may take a different path. A path that lets Solaire persist a little longer.
This is what I did not do. Oh shit, pop off music. Pop the fuck off music. It's very loud.
A path that takes you both to the kiln of the first flame, where Solaire can fight for his son.
Scary Perry Rosier. Alright, cool. Fight's over. I don't need to see the whole boss fight. I experienced it, alright?
With Gwyn defeated, Solaire can light a flame of his own and return sunlight to the world. For the fire within Solaire will burn the brightest of all.
This music's too epic for me, just sitting in my sweatpants eating Doritos. I feel that. I feel that 7-Eleven.
In Gwyn's Age of Fire, there were 4 knights who distinguished themselves above all others. First, there was Hawkeye Goth, who fought in the First War against the
Goth.
dragons.
Jared
He
Goff.
exulted in the thrill of the hunt, plucking dragons out of the sky with his enormous greatbow.
What a throw. Frozen
Soon,
rope.
the only dragons left were in his memories, which he revisited endlessly. Fighting on the ground was Ornstein, the dragon slayer. He wielded a long, lightning cross spear that could be stamped deep into a stone dragon's hide. Its curious design went on to remind many of an exiled god of war, though none of them dared to speak his name.
Oh, the nameless
And
kid.
then there was Kiran, whose talents differed considerably from the previous 2. A stealthy assassin, she would have been no match for dragons, and so she must have killed for Gwyn in the Age of Fire to follow. She dazzled her foes with streaks of gold in the night, and then stung with the vicious poison of her silver tracer.
Tracer
But in the Age of Man to come, none were as well equipped as the great knight Artorias.
Fuck yes.
For nothing, not dragons, nor disunity, nor even his enemies frightened Gwyn like the dark. The dark soul of man filled the Lord of Light with fear, for one day, Gwyn knew, the fire would fade, and humanity would inherit the world. His world. So while he still had time and power, Gwyn began to rig the world in his favor. Mankind had stood amongst those who set out to slay the ancient dragons, and, as if in thanks, Gwyn bestowed upon pygmies and men the Ringed City, an enormous, gilded city located at World's End. The walls were as tall as mountains, and above them soared Medir, an immortal archdragon that was raised by the gods.
Wow.
Below slumbered Gwyn's youngest daughter, the Princess Filianor, a woman of enormous faith and power, who Gwyn gave up to protect the pygmies until the very end of the world. And at first glance, you might think these acts benevolent, you might think they were kind, but in the end, it was just a trick of the light. The walls were not for protection. The dragon had an eternal duty to battle the dark, and Gwyn's daughter, Filianor, would never see her
Ay,
father again.
pobrecita.
The purpose of the Ringed City was not to protect the holders of the original Dark Soul, it was to imprison them, like a ring of fire that encircles the darkness.
You're so right, Melissa. He's just dropping his kids left and right, right? Pretending like it's some big valiant act. Nah, man. You just weren't ready for kids, Gwyn. Weren't ready for kids. I feel that. If I get someone pregnant, I'm gonna be like, look, I gotta go I gotta, give up, go to the fire, and because for the next 1,000 years, like, I need to extend the flame. So sorry, like, I'll be back, right? That's gonna be the next going out for cigarettes. One day, my dad went out to extend the flame for 1,000 years. He never came back.
Like a ring of fire that encircles the darkness
Deadbeat
of
dad
humanity.
for real.
And man was, in fact, branded with this very seal, the dark sign. And despite clear evidence of their heroism in the war against the dragons, their dark knights never were lauded for their service. So it's no wonder, then, that in all of the spellcraft and the hexes that stem from humanity, one thing remains constant. It craves a free will of its own, and it writhes against its shackles. Perhaps the first example of this was the Mad King. He was pygmy royalty, and he rebelled against the light. We have no idea what crimes he committed, but they must have been terrible, for he was put to death by Shira, a knight of Filianor. Only the Mad King would not die.
That's a cool-ass weapon.
And Shira, with the Mad King, impossibly entwined around her spear.
All of this stuff, I haven't played Dark Souls 3 yet, so it's, whatever. If I don't understand it, totally fine with me. So that's why I don't mind not understanding all this shit, because I just haven't experienced it yet.
Had no choice but to hold him quietly in a dark room until the end of time. There were, of course, other human cities outside of the Ringed City.
Oh, that's
One
two?
such example was the Dark City of New Londo, which was governed by 4 human kings and protected by Knights of the Dark Blade.
Oh, there's 3.
The kings were renowned for their foresight, and they even had fragments of Gwyn's very own soul bestowed upon them, so that they could better govern their people. Of course, this too was another trick of the light, for what lies at the top of New Londo but Filing Shrine, a place of undead sacrifice to Gwyn's Age of Fire. So no human city was permitted to flourish without a clear benefit to the Age of Fire.
Thank you,
And
Shiz.
there was no better example of this than another human city called
Appreciate that.
Uldasil, which was the golden land of light sorceries. Light, it turns out, can be manipulated to foster illusions. It can hide your intentions, it can even mess with the fabric of time. And spells of this nature would be of great value to the gods in the coming years, so Uldasil flourished, an exemplary city for Gwyn's pantheon, because it was proof that humanity could be taught to serve their interests. And so it was that a group of missionaries from Uldasil embarked upon the Ringed City, perhaps to preach and reinforce the power of the light in this dark city. One of these missionaries was called Half-Light, and he was a talented individual who was wielding the powerful artifacts of his homeland. He would go on to earn the favor of Filianor, and he would even earn the legendary dragon weapon of Medir. So it was no surprise that Half-Light elected to stay behind, becoming the last recorded
That's a cool-ass name.
Church. And just as Half-Light visited the Ringed City and even stayed behind, the reverse was also true of a certain pygmy from the Ringed City. This pygmy's name was Manus, and while we know nothing about the nature of his visit to Uldasil, we do know one thing: he died there, and the body of primeval man, of Manus, was put to rest far, far beneath the city itself, out of the light and out of mind.
Yeah, I fucked him
We don't know
up.
much about Manus, and a lot is left to the imagination. What we do know is that he was a pygmy far from home. He was a part of a race that Gwyn was doing everything in his power to suppress, and when you think on Manus's fate, it's kind of hard to imagine that Gwyn didn't have a hand in it, especially since Gwyn had an order of assassins, the Lord's Blades, in his employ. The leader of the Lord's Blades was Kidan, the Hornet. It stated that she laid waste to Gwyn's enemies, and of course, there's no proof that the Lord's Blades actually killed Manus, but you could also argue that that's rather the point of assassins, isn't it? Whatever the case, the tide was turning. Mankind was struggling against the world order, and even New Londo, which was once a haven for undead, had turned into a hideous spawning ground for the Abyss and its dark wraiths. At the heart of this uprising was a serpent named Karth, who swayed the 4 kings.
Damn Karth.
And taught its undead knights how to pillage back their humanity. Some descriptions even say the dark wraiths became the most human of all, but to others,
The dark wraiths are the enemies of man and any living thing that has a soul.
So as the age of man crept ever closer, yet another Knight of Gwyn appeared, perfectly equipped to face it, the great Knight Artorias. With the greatsword weighted to strike harder against servants of the dark, a great wolf who defined their fighting style, and a covenant with the beasts of the abyss, Knight Artorias and Sif defiantly faced the worst of mankind. Yet, in the end, the terror that was the Dark Wraiths could only be stifled with the sacrifice of their entire city. Such was the power of their 4 kings and the resilience of their abyss. Luckily for Gwyn, such a safety measure had been put in place years ago, and so the sealers of New Londo watched stoically as water rushed into the city and thousands of innocents died by their
Jesus!
The entire city was sacrificed to contain them. For that is how great a threat they were. That is how great a threat they were.
But while Gwyn did manage to put the New Londo threat on hold, no one was prepared for the outbreak in Ulasil. I imagine when they figured out that a primeval human was buried beneath their very city, the temptation must have been too great to resist.
Believe it or not, Ulasil has brought the
Bloodborne guy.
abyss upon itself.
It's Bloodborne guy.
Fooled by that toothy serpent. They upturned the grave of primeval man and incited his ornery wrath. What?
That's the line of dialogue that I had totally missed because I was just so blown away by, oh, it's Bloodborne guy. When he mentioned the toothy serpent, I remember somebody in chat saying that. I was like, oh, was he talking about Frampt? But he was talking about Koth, and I just had never met Koth.
Beneath their very city, the temptation must have been too great to resist.
Believe it or not, Ulasil has brought the abyss upon itself. Fooled by that toothy serpent. They upturned the grave of primeval man and incited his
What's up, cool dad sweaters?
What
ornery
could
wrath.
they have been thinking?
Like the mad pygmy king before him, Manus rejected death, and he was as far from peace as could be.
What a cool
the raw
looking
emotion of
Bloodborne
humanity
style looking boss.
that we mentioned earlier billowed outwards, corrupting the townsfolk of Ulasil, and Manus became the father of an unstoppable dark abyss. Curiously though, it's almost as if he was searching for something, using his power to reach across time and space until he found it. Instead, he found Dusk, Princess of Ulasil.
I still think on that creature from the abyss that preyed upon me. My faculties were far from lucid, but I quite clearly sensed certain emotions. A wrenching nostalgia, a lost joy, an object of obsession, and a sincere hope to reclaim it. Could these thoughts belong to the beast from the abyss? But if that were true, then perhaps it is no beast after all.
The object of his obsession was a pendant, and with it in our possession, we're pulled back to a time where all appears lost.
Well, look at this one. From what faraway age hast thou come?
And then he talked to a giant, horrifying mushroom lady. When I was so close to attacking this lady, chat, when I first saw her, I almost just destroyed the shit out of her dumbass. She was really nice, but horrifying. Don't look at me when you talk to me. She thick.
He's lost.
Well, look at this one. From what faraway age hast thou come? Thy scent is very human indeed, but not intolerable.
Thank you, very nice.
I am Elizabeth, guardian of this sanctuary.
Oh, this is Elizabeth, wrong one.
Thou shalt see further on. An abyss was begat of the ancient beast, and threatens to swallow the whole of Ulasil.
The city is lost, the abyss is spreading, and mankind has succumbed to the worst parts of their nature. When Gwyn heard of Manus and his abyss, Artorius must have been the first one sent to deal with the threat. He was, after all, the best equipped. But fighting dark wraiths is considerably different to the power of primeval man. So Artorius was bested and was forced to retreat.
No!
Beset by the abyss, the final act of Artorius was to protect his companion.
Aww.
He shielded Sif with the divine power of his great shield. After all, his arm was broken, and he could no longer bear the burden. Then, Artorius himself was overcome.
All of you, forgive me, for I have availed you nothing.
Knight Artorius came to stop this, but such a hero has nary a murmur of dark. Without doubt he will be swallowed by the abyss, overcome by its utter blackness. Indeed, the abyss may be unstoppable.
All was lost, and yet strangely, soon after the spread of the abyss was actually halted, and Princess Dusk of Ulasil miraculously wandered out of the abyss. Artorius' name henceforth passed into legend, the knight who gave his life to disperse the abyss to rescue the Princess of Ulasil. This is a lie, of course. In reality, it is we who rescued the princess, and we fulfilled the legacy of Artorius.
This may strike thine ear as somewhat peculiar, but long ago, in my homeland of Ulasil, I was beset by a creature from the abyss. I would have perished then, were it not for the great knight Artorius. In truth, I saw little of what transpired, for mine senses were already fled, but even still, there was something about Artorius, a certain balance of the humours that quite perfectly fits your semblance. Heavens, could it be that?
With this, Manus' suffering has ended. But Manus wasn't the only corruption of the abyss that we killed in Ulasil. There was also Artorius. The legend of Artorius is a lie. He did not vanquish the father of the abyss. He did not eliminate the dark wraiths of New Londo. The abyss is unstoppable, and yet, eons later, the legend of Artorius would inspire a legion of abyss watchers who continue to rage against the dying of the light. Yes, the abyss is unstoppable, but they fight nonetheless. Even in this state, notice that Artorius continues to seek out and kill corruptions of humanity. He's still in there somewhere, but his legend can only live on with his death. Only his fellow knights knew the truth, that they would take his soul and his secret to the grave. And while Artorius' soul was corrupted by the worst of humanity, it was the best of humanity that redeemed it. And the hero of Ulasil would disappear without a trace, almost as if he didn't belong.
Dude.
For in reality,
that's crazy.
And eons later, deep within an enchanted wood, behind 2 locked doors and a troop of forest protectors, an ancient cat speaks the truth.
The legend of Artorius art none but a fabrication. Traversing the dark, 'tis but a fairy tale.
Alvina is keen to downplay the legend of Artorius.
No, we did it, Alvina. We did it. We went back in time and we did that shit. This is the coolest goddamn thing in the world. Oh my god. This is the fucking coolest thing of all time. Holy shit. Yo, what up, Walter? How's it going, dog? This is amazing.
Later, deep within an enchanted wood, behind 2 locked doors and a troop of forest protectors, an ancient cat speaks the truth.
The legend of Artorius art none but a fabrication. Traversing the dark, 'tis but a fairy tale.
Alvina is keen to downplay the legend of Artorius because heroes and bandits have begun seeking out his grave. They would desecrate his legacy for the secret of abyss walking, and they may do harm to Sif, who, in fact, Alvina helped you rescue back when the world was still young. Imagine what Sif is feeling when you cross paths again years later. You're duty-bound to seek the Abyss, and Sif is duty-bound to stop you. One of you will have to die, because Sif cannot give you the Covenant of Artorias willingly. Maybe, in death, he can find his friend Artorias again.
Oh my god, dude. Prepare to cry, dude. Wait, what cutscene is this? What cutscene is this? I don't remember that being the intro. So, okay, yeah, so if you do the DLC before you fight Sif, he recognizes you. Holy shit. This is the best fucking... God, Jesus, this is the best thing of all time.
Before I go, I just want to say a couple more things. Firstly, this video was made far, far better by the contributions of a guy called the Parry God, who recorded footage for me this time.
That was me.
It allowed me to sort of focus more on the script and the edit. He's responsible for those fantastic slow motion shots, which I didn't know how to do, but they fit really, really well with the pacing of the video. So do me a favor and please go watch his cinematic short film on Dark Souls 3, because it's inspiring stuff, he's just getting his channel started, and his upcoming work is really well worth your subscription in my opinion. And this is an appropriate video to shout out somebody else's channel in, because all those years ago, this video, Prepare to Cry, Artorias, this was the story I decided to tell for the first time, and this is the video that got my channel started, so being able to work on this again after everything I've learned was really special for me, and I really appreciate that you watched it all the way through. I hope you enjoyed it.
Now Vati just making me cry without even telling me about the lore. We just got Vati lore. It was him the whole time who went back in time to make that first video about Artorias. Holy shit, that is amazing. That is amazing. Oh god, we have a 2012 Vati video now. We should have saved the Artorias one for last. We're back to bad audio, everybody. All right, let's lower the browser volume and see how this sounds. Yeah, I'll be posting this up on my YouTube, the whole watch along. But again, make sure you go, even if you don't want to subscribe to Vati Video's channel, even if you don't want to subscribe, at least go like all the videos and stuff. And Artorias was already my favorite character just by how he looked.
The gate, the old fortress. Was that your doing?
Father, you wouldn't miss him. Tell him that Zieglind is on her way. Oh, so just stay put and keep out of trouble.
Perish, foul creatures! We can overcome this together. Our fates do seem entwined, don't they? Perhaps this, too, is the will of Lord Gwyn. You seem to help me at every turn. This Knight of Katarina expresses his deepest gratitude.
The fucking
Now I
Katarina
have no regrets.
wine mixer,
I
dude.
depart for my final adventure. Wherever you go, may you be safe. You are a true hero, to be sure. Perhaps the time has come. I am Siegmeyer of Catalina, and you shall feel my wrath!
When an undead loses all hope, they begin to hollow. Siegmeyer is an adventurer who prides himself on his bravery. His ability to progress and explore is what keeps him from hollowing. The name Siegmeyer means victory. Success is at the core of who he is.
Venturing is my life. I'm prepared for the worst.
With good intentions, the chosen undead saves Siegmeyer time and time again. The man learns that he only has to wait for his problems to be solved. So, in helping Siegmeyer, you take everything from him. And an undead who loses everything becomes hollow.
I've run flat up against a wall, or a gate, I should say. The thing just won't budge, no matter how long I wait. And oh, have I waited. This is quite a fix. We'll need another 3, no, maybe 5 bodies.
Don't worry, I got this shit.
Quite a fix indeed. By my knighthood, I'm ashamed to ask, but can you spare a few scraps of moss?
As you save Siegmeyer, you are draining his belief in himself. Every time you help him, he becomes more and more hollow. That is, until he decides to make a final stand. He sacrifices himself to repay his friend.
Oh shit.
Take that victory from him.
I never got this far. I never did this.
Friend, I have an idea. A good one, really. I will rush those dire fiends, and you can slip away in the confusion. Please, friend. I owe you much more than this. By the honor of the Knights of Katarina, allow me to assist you. And now, I go. Don't be slow.
Oh, doing this is a pain in the ass?
Over here, you fiends! Perish, foul creatures! I am Siegmeyer of Katarina, and you shall feel my wrath!
If you allow Siegmeyer to sacrifice himself while you escape, then he will die with his honor intact. However, the only way for him to survive is if you shame him and save his life.
Shame him? I heard you had a small dick, Siegmeyer. Like, oh, I do. I'm ashamed.
Well, you've saved me. Once again. Oh, thank goodness. I'm exhausted.
This is the last time you'll see Siegmeyer alive.
The long sword.
Have you seen my father? You wouldn't miss him. A suit of armor just like mine.
Sieglind is the daughter of Siegmeyer. She risks the perils of Lordran to tell her father his wife's dying words.
My daughter risked life and limb just to find me, to deliver her mother's last words. And the poor girl's not even undead. Heavens. I never asked her to do that.
It would seem that Siegmeyer abandoned his daughter and wife for a life of adventuring. It is clear that Siegmeyer cares for his daughter and her for him, but something has happened in their past that led to them being kept apart. After hearing his wife's dying words from the daughter who risked her life, he goes on his final, reckless adventure.
This part sucked. I didn't die once, though. I think that's my... Of all the stuff that I did in Dark Souls, that's probably my proudest moment, is not dying once, going all the way down to the Ash Lake. I avoided so many crazy deaths. I'm surprised I didn't fall off of shit or get cursed by these jerk asses.
Hollowing is a slow process, with the undead suffering many deaths before they hollow to a point of no return. The name Sieglind means gentle battle. I believe Sieglind has killed her father before, but only out of necessity.
If he goes hollow, I'll just have to kill him again.
Oh my god.
Siegmeyer hollows completely at the end of his adventure.
Weird fan art.
Yes. Now I see. You are one of the bad ones.
Is this in the Ash
Then
Lake?
there's only one thing to do with you.
Where is this? They're playing the Inception music right now? It sure is. I don't need to see the full battle, Vati, but thank you.
Heavens, my dear little Lynn.
Yeah, it's actual footage, McLovin. So what Vati would do for a lot of his old videos is he would kill characters in the game to get their armor, and then he would pretend that he would play out these situations as if he were the character. The same with Bloodborne, how whenever he acts, you know, he'll be talking about a certain character in Bloodborne, but he'll be walking in their armor to make it kind of look like it's from their perspective. Which definitely is time consuming, right? You got to kill everything and then you got to go back to that spot and try to be as cinematic as possible. Or mods, yeah, that's true. But I mean, I don't know. It was 2012, so I don't want to write that off.
Can do to stop it.
My father, all hollow now, has been subdued.
Was the top spinning
He
the
will
whole time,
cause
everybody?
No more trouble. It's finally over.
Father.
Dear father. Dear father.
Yeah, I lost track of him. I don't remember the last time I saw him in the game. All I remember was seeing her as I went to go venture out to that crystallized place. And she was like, "Have you seen my father lately?" And I said, "Yeah," but I didn't really know what time span she was talking about. I was like, "Yeah, I saw him like 2 weeks ago on my playthrough." And so she just disappeared, and then I don't know, I just never ever saw him again. You missed helping him in Blight Town, then he goes to Los Izalith. Got it. Okay. The Children of Chaos. This is a 20-minute one. Strap in, everybody. This is a 20-minute one right here. This is lady with the hair covering her boobs. I think that's the reason why most people are clicking on that playthrough video on my YouTube channel, because I put her in the thumb. A lot of horny people out there.
My mother, the Witch of Izalith, was one of the primeval lords.
When is this movie?
Her power came from the soul that she found near
2019.
the first flame.
So Vati went back and did this remastered when the remastered version came out.
Primeval lords. Her power came from the soul that she found near the first flame. She focused this power to light a flame of her own. But she failed to control it. The flame of chaos engulfed Mother and my sisters and molded them into deformed creatures. Only I escaped, and now I am here. My mother, my sisters, what have you done?
What's up, Morbidon's laugh?
Long ago, we thought the Chaos Flame was born of desperation. A flame created to replace the fading First Flame and to secure the Age of Fire for the Lords. We were wrong. Izalith's flame was a flame of ambition, for the First Flame gave life, and Izalith believed that her soul could replicate this power. And she was right, but not in the way that she expected. For when the witch and her 7 daughters huddled together and focused their power, chaos was born. Their flame spiraled out of control, engulfing the women and the city of Izalith. And during this period of instability, the very worst demons...
I don't know, Melissa.
But soon after, the witch clearly wrested chaos under control, becoming the bed of chaos at the heart of a new city. On that day, Izalith learned a set of core truths. First, that her power...
First, that this boss fight is going to be complete bullshit. What's up, Super Gents?
has limits.
The lady that made the demons had daughters.
Second, that fire is to be feared. And third, that grotesque, parasitic life is still life. The first daughter we meet is Quelaag. She is described by her soul as a perfect creation of chaos, and we see this in her movements. Note how she affectionately caresses her demon half, how she smiles with contentment, and how she embraces her parasite.
Ah, a precious new sacrifice. The children of chaos are hungry. Give yourself to Quelaag's flame.
A steady stream of undead
Quelaag?
are attempting to ring the second bell of
see.
awakening.
Yeah, bad guy
Making
Quelaag.
this the perfect place for a daughter of chaos to nest. For chaos, just like the first flame, thrives off of humanity.
Those who defy the pact, those who trespass Quelaag's domain, may you feel the depth of our wrath.
She speaks of a pact, but a clueless undead can have no knowledge of this. To us, Quelaag is just another foe who blocks our path.
Did you fight her? Yeah. I beat her on my 3rd try, I think.
Of our wrath.
She speaks of a pact, but a clueless undead can have no knowledge of this. To us, Quelaag is just another foe who blocks our path.
Yeah, she's the first daughter you meet.
But she was so much more than that.
Oh dear, what have we here?
Oh, I accidentally killed this dude.
New servant?
I accidentally killed this dude. Sorry, dog.
But you have no eggs. No matter. Go along and have audience with our fair lady.
If you didn't watch me in playing this game at this moment, I walked up to him, assumed he was an NPC, became friends with him, did the dialogue shit, and after coming back to that bonfire a couple times, I just swung out of pure instinct, like a baby tiger going for the jugular. I just swung on him. Even though it's like my 5th time seeing him, I knew he was a good guy, and I still freaking swung on him. An idiot, dude. An idiot. A stupid idiot.
Eggs. No matter. Go along and have audience with our fair lady. Except, if you lay a hand on the fair lady, you should be prepared to face my
I fucking
wrath.
laid a hand on you, bitch.
Quelaag, my dear sister, what is it? Don't mind me. It does not hurt terribly. Your visits out more than anything. I'll be fine. I have you, dear sister. But promise me that you will take care of yourself.
The Fair Lady is the 2nd daughter of Chaos we meet, but she's not much longer for this world. Blind, ailing, and unfeeling, she subsists on offerings of humanity that her sister Quelaag once brought to her. With the old witch's ring in our possession, the Fair Lady understands us, and since Quelaag was the only remaining one capable of speaking to her, you must be her sister.
You know, I still remember your beautiful, silky face. If only I could gaze upon it once more. Is something troubling you? Please, sister, do not cry. I am happy, really. I have you.
Fair lady, like, no offense, it sounds like you're reading from a script. Like you've been kidnapped and the kidnappers are making you read a script. Everything's fine. I'm happy. Everything's safe here. Don't worry about me. Give this girl some water for real, Melissa. Take a shower. Fucking get some sleep.
Don't I?
You speak the tongue of the fair lady? In all honesty, I am envious. What comfort can I offer without speaking her tongue?
This egg-burdened undead was once a renowned pyromancer. He developed spells of toxic and poison mist, which are considered to be terrible heretical spells. These pyromancies earned him exile, followed by a terrible infection, and then led to a chance meeting with the Daughter of Chaos.
Worse than undead, we are diseased and unwanted, like the grime of the great swamp. But my dear fair lady, she cried for me and swallowed the great blight pus,
Ew.
despite Mistress Quelaag's orders to the...
Yeah, I'm looking at this injury you have. Looks like it's some great blight pus. I'm gonna... Here's some hydrocortisone.
Blight pus, despite Mistress Quelaag's orders to the contrary.
These two Daughters of Chaos care really deeply about their offspring, and in the Fair Lady's case, even for the undead that carry those offspring. But without the humanity that her sister brought her, she and her children will die.
Quelaag, my dear sister.
legs. It hurts. They've gone still. I am afraid it may be too late. I am so sorry, dear sister.
Luckily, Ingi does not yet know that Mistress Quelaag is dead, so he shares his flame with you, which is a deeply personal act for a pyromancer, because the flame is a part of himself.
You have served our fair lady well. Now, let this strength be yours.
Before there were pyromancies, there were fire sorceries, and then, when the Witch of Izalith shared her flame with her daughters, pyromancy came to be. Unlike sorcery, which requires a certain intellect, pyromancy is this personal, primal art, rooted in this desire to
want to be a
hold
pyromancer.
and control fire. And
Should
then
be
it's
cool, dude.
refined by the acceptance that true control is impossible.
Pyromancy is
Can
the
I
ultimate
offer you an
fantasy,
egg in this
reborn in
trying
the dark
time?
and warmed by fire, but this fire we cannot touch. Those whose fascination with fire persists learn to hold it in their own hand.
And so, humanity took really well to this ancient art, passing down knowledge from a daughter of chaos herself.
Have you heard of Lost Quelana, an inhuman witch who wanders the poisoned swamp?
I want to see Danny
Only
DeVito
no
come
one
back.
has ever seen her.
Play him in the movie.
So who really knows? But what if she is another of the Quelaag sisters? Our fair lady would be greatly comforted by her presence.
A mere undead, yet you can see me. Fascinating. I am Quelana of Izalith. I am not often revealed to walkers of flesh. You have a gift. Are you too one who seeks my pyromancy?
Quelana is the eldest daughter of chaos, and she's the furthest one from home.
I don't remember
It's
her.
thanks to her that mankind became so attuned to pyromancy.
I've never met her, right?
Pyromancy is the art of invoking and manipulating fire. But remember one thing. Always fear the flame, lest you be devoured by it and lose yourself. I would hate to see that happen again.
I'm the worst gamer. I'm asking you all if I met her in a game that I played. God, dude. I wish I had retention skills. I wish I had a normal brain.
To be devoured by it and lose yourself. I would hate to see that happen again.
Interestingly, Quelana refuses to teach the chaos pyromancy of her homeland, instead opting for the more refined pyromancies to come. Fire Whip, an effort to control that which cannot be controlled. Firestorm, which displays the indiscriminate horror of flame. And, perhaps most importantly, Rapport, an advanced
she's who the
spell of
pyromancer.
Quelana
Wow, that's
that
cool,
uses
J-Sec.
fire to lure the living, making them a temporary ally.
I have a favor to ask. I abandoned my mother and sisters and fled to this land.
Oh, I'll drink water
But
for you,
my mother
Super
and
Dan.
sisters have been in anguish since. I beseech you, free mother and my sisters from the flame of chaos. I cannot do it myself. I lack the strength and the bravery. But you, I realize what I am asking. But please, free their poor souls. Mother's ambitions were misguided, no doubt. But surely 1,000 years of atonement is enough.
Quelana believes her family has been in penance for 1,000 years, and that death would be their only comfort. But is this true? Will you take the word of a woman who's afraid to face her own demons? The flame of chaos is not as evil as Quelana would have you believe. How could it be, when it motivated an entire developed civilization? Izalith's architecture is inspired by chaos. Its first demons are considered priests. The Capra is capable of taming animals.
Go to hell.
There were embers of chaos used for smithing. There is a written language, a spoken language. This is not really a place that was ruined because of chaos. It's a place that became defined by it. And it's all thanks to Mother Izalith. If it was Izalith's goal to create a flame of life, then she succeeded. For two younger sisters and the mother can be found in the depths of Izalith at its lowest point, where demons are born. This seedbed of life is called the Bed of Chaos. It's actually comprised of 3 family members. Flanking on the sides are 2 enchanted, fleshy mounds connected to the center with staves. Staves that look awfully like the Izalith staff, seen in the beginning, where 2 sisters flank the mother in the center.
Oh, wow.
Which makes the center of the bed of chaos Mother Izalith herself. Her control is evident by virtue of our ability to undo it, because if you take out a sister on the side, then the heart of chaos breaks free. So, if chaos was under control, what happened to Izalith?
Is it really chaos?
Well, war. Despite Izalith's aid in Gwyn's war against the dragons, the Lord of Light turned his ire to the creatures of chaos.
God, those things
Did
are
he
so
feel
ugly.
threatened by these monsters? Did he consider chaos to be this affront to the integrity of divine flame?
But these things
Impossible to say affront.
really just look like Miyazaki's 3-year-old daughter drew it, and then he showed it to a concept artist and a 3D artist, and then they made it for the game. Like, these things look so out of place. Yeah, this area sucked, Melissa, for sure. But I think you hated it as much as I hated it, because I kept dying to the bed of chaos, so I had to keep running back through it. But it also just wasn't a very attractive world to be in. A lot of people in chat made sure to let me know that this whole area was rushed and wasn't designed very well for the end of the game.
The integrity of divine flame? It's impossible to say for sure. For this war, he commissioned an elite order of warriors who became known as the Black Knights. Their oversized weapons were designed to deal with their oversized foes, and their loyalty to Gwyn was so fierce that they would later follow him into the kiln of the first flame.
But if you kill them and get their weapons, people will say you only beat the game because you had their weapons, when in reality, you were dodging attacks with insane precision. And you're a god gamer.
If there ever was a time for Quelana to slip away and leave, it would be now, during the war.
Vati's actually married. Vati's married, has a little baby. I watched some of his Demon Souls playthrough. So he has 2 channels. He's got Vati Vidya and Vati Vadia. And Vati Vadia is him playing through some games. It's mostly just Twitch VODs. But he has his Demon Souls remake videos up there, which are really cool, because it's basically him seeing the one of the games that got him into content creation now, you know, brought to PS5 visuals. So it's kind of him being like, whoa, this is crazy as shit. Didn't stream a whole lot. Thanks for the 500 Super Gens. Very nice of you. I'll read all the subs and resubs after this video.
To slip away and leave, it would be now, during the war. Her family must have thought that she died.
It is Vati Vadia, actually. That's the second channel.
An unrecognizable corpse is a gold-hemmed set that says it was once worn by Quelana of Izalith. So not only does this suggest that she faked her death, it suggests that she couldn't bear to have her family know about her desertion, and this news of her death would have hit no one harder than her brother. This giant is a being of ceaseless discharge, born alongside the worst demons when the Chaos Flame was still unstable. So, to soothe his lava-inflamed sores, his witch sisters gave him a special orange charmed ring.
This dude.
Which, fool that he is, he accidentally dropped. He would never receive another, and so he spent the rest of his days in pain, oblivious to everything around him. Everything except the shrine to his sister Quelana.
Whoops. Oh, wow.
Her corpse,
That's what
and he
that
would
was.
Literally throw away his life.
Holy
to
shit.
So strong is the love for his family.
Holy shit. That's what happened there. I beat his bitch ass in one try. Loser.
leaving her family may well have been the worst decision Quelana could have made. For, in a move that she could not have predicted, Gwyn stopped short of annihilating
the discharge never ceases, but
Izalith,
we'll talk about
after
that
all,
later.
Was already broken, referred to by many as the obsolete capital of chaos, in return for their miserable lives, and along with a promise to never leave Izalith. It appears that Gwyn received a swarm of demonic troops for his own army. Stray demons guard the asylum, lesser bat-winged demons became the messengers of the gods, and a white-winged demonic lion watches over the sanctuary of Ulasil.
This boss sucked.
So it was that the family of chaos survived, and Quelana deserted them all.
Honestly, this boss may have been the hardest of the whole DLC. I'm surprised I beat this boss on the second or third try, because the moveset was so unpredictable.
Of Ulasil. So it was that the family of chaos survived, and Quelana deserted them all. It's likely Quelana didn't expect her sisters to survive the war, but now that they have, she becomes stuck in this awkward state of limbo. She cannot return, for she disgraced and abandoned her family, and yet, nor can she bring herself to fully leave either. Instead, she sits as close to chaos as possible, punishing herself with this.
I went back, Shesmu. I saw both of them and said, no, thank you. Bye.
She watches on, so close to her tormented family, and yet, given her survivor's guilt and her cowardice, she might as well be miles away. Which is a shame, because Quelana could truly be a comfort to her remaining family, especially to the fair lady, to her brother, and to her mother.
The Witch of Izalith, please, do not speak of her. I abandoned my mother and sisters, and fled to this land. Now I roam these parts, feigning ablution and pretending to seek answers.
I've never heard that word in my
Finally,
life.
After 1,000 years of survivor's guilt, she meets us. Someone who can finally break the stalemate. She lacks the strength and the bravery, and we have a Lord vessel to fill.
You would betray us? I should have known. My dear fair lady, you are in danger.
I didn't mean to kill you, dude.
Layla,
I'm sorry.
what was that? Is something troubling you?
Put her out of her misery, dude. I should have put her out of her misery.
But why?
Why, you monster!
You know what? I'm glad I didn't put her out of her misery. She died thinking that her sister killed her. I'm glad I didn't do that.
But why?
Why, you monster! The fair lady! What have you done? What have you done?
They gave everything to wrest chaos under control. They ignited a culture. They displayed that they could control their parasites, and even that having a parasite at all is a choice to serve chaos. And we undo it all. We rip the sisters' shackles from chaos, and despite the mother's feeble attempts to sort of swat us away, we finally put an end to
No, they weren't feeble attempts. Mother swatted us away plenty. Mother swatted us away, and I ended the stream and almost quit the game. Mother swatted us away plenty of times. Okay.
to Mother Izalith herself.
Outstanding. You have done very well. Thank you. I am blessed to have met you. Please take this.
I was so
It is all of
tilted.
me.
We fed Quelana's ignorance. She never got to see her brother mourn her for centuries. She likely never knew that her sister poisoned herself for the good of the wretched. Did she know that a dark wraith was squirreling away humanity for his fair lady? That her mother was doubled over in pain for centuries to contain chaos? Survivor's guilt is a real traumatic condition, and it led to the death of her family. Eons afterwards, the effects of all of this are still felt. Without the mother, chaos rises again, unbridled, in a city called Aleum Lois, until
Whoa.
a powerful king and queen sacrifice themselves to contain it once again. And even later still, towards the end of the world, surrounded by mountains of dead demons, an old demon king gives up the vestiges of chaos in one final effort to fight for his species. There is only one silver lining to this tale. It's that deep within the long-forgotten ruins, past the last surviving offshoots of the demon race, and behind an illusory wall, lies the corpse of Quelana, curled up to the fair lady. She finally found the strength to return home.
Oh, spoilers, Andy. But still, that's awesome.
This video is dedicated to my patrons, because there's like 1,000 or so of you who support my stuff so that millions
There's me
can
falling.
enjoy it. And I think it takes a special kind of person to do that.
All right, Andy, fifth try. Here we go, baby.
And
fucking shit,
hey,
I hate
guess
this
I
game.
Can now include my Twitch
This
subs
game
amongst
fucking
that number
sucks.
as well. Twitch subs actually get the same perks as $5 patrons do, so that means early access to videos and also early access to the art that I commission for the Loki. I'd also love this. I know, as always, simply for watching.
Oh, wow. Using mods. He's using mods to fucking
At the very least, I do plan to
make this
stream
shit look
every
dope.
time I upload a new video, so keep an eye out for that.
Tam, have you heard about this ambitious project by this one person who is making Dark Souls 2 look good? Because I feel like at the pace that they're going, it's going to be another year or two. But that's when I want to play Dark Souls 2, whenever they're done with their whole modding process. Because it looks amazing.
Like it's Fallout 3 with a green tint and somehow completely changing the feel.
How cool that looks, dude. That looks so good. Look at this.
It is a massive step up over the vanilla Dark Souls 2. And although this project is already looking great, if you do want to give the mod authors some feedback, you can reach out to them on
Holy shit. Like, this is when I'll go play Dark Souls 2.
Knight Lautrec looks out for himself. If we are to judge him, then we should count our own sins first. You who invades for humanity. You who kills simply because something is in your way, or because they have something important to you. Helm of Lautrec the Embraced, representing the goddess Fina's love. During his solitude,
He upgraded his
forsook
microphone.
everything, for he believed in the goddess's love for him. Ring of favor and protection, granted by Fina, known in legend to possess fateful beauty. The ring breaks if ever removed. Armor of Lautrec the Embraced, representing the goddess Fina's love. The goddess's arms wrap around it as if to embrace the wearer. The goddess Fina seems more sinister than you would expect from a goddess of love. She appears to a man who has forsaken everything, who will commit atrocities to serve. Her ring of protection breaks if you abandon her.
33, Jose.
The armor wraps its arms around you, clinging to the wearer. Is it a reminder of her love, or to remind you that you are hers? We know her love is faithful. If you're hers, you're well and truly a part of her design. Whatever goals she has are yours as well. So did Fina really love him deeply and personally? It's possible. Interactions between the gods and the humans are quite common. It's also possible that the man is simply within a religious delusion. We first encounter Knight Lautrec in a cell within the undead church. Why a church has a cell is a story in and of itself, as is the story of how Lautrec came to be trapped there. It could have something to do with the Firekeeper soul down below, or perhaps Oswald the Pardoner. Maybe
I forgot about Oswald.
For if anyone is drenched in sin, it's Lautrec, and his desire for more humanity is clear. Even Patches speaks of it. It comes as no surprise then that Lautrec sets his sight on a harmless Firekeeper.
When chat kind of warned me about Lautrec, I thought Lautrec was Patches. I just assumed... I saw a couple people in chat say, like, oh no, here's this guy. I just thought he was going to be Patches. Was this the guy who shut the door behind you and locked you in? No. No, this guy ended up killing the Firekeeper, and then I went to go invade his world.
Firekeepers are corporeal manifestations of the bonfires they keep.
Yeah, I do
Their
know,
souls are
Jose,
a
I don't
door
know
for
why.
Humanity offered to the bonfire, and as such, their souls are gnawed by infinite humanity. It's clear that this isn't a fate that the Firekeeper enjoys, since she expresses that she wishes for the curse of the undead to be lifted so that she may die as a human. Her tongue was cut out so she could not complain, and her blood-stained skirt implies that she was maimed so that she may not escape. Yet, despite this, she expresses a desire to fulfill her fate as a firekeeper. To a man who desires humanity, whether for his goddess or for himself, a firekeeper soul is quite a prize. Lautrec escapes with the firekeeper soul. Whether he desires it for himself as a trophy or for his goddess is unclear. Yet you and many other parallel undead track him down and invade his world.
We destroyed him. It was amazing.
Here we go again. How many times will these lambs rush to slaughter?
Oh, we're just gonna watch a boss fight? Yeah.
Worth restoring the fire the goddess wanted, Knight Lautrec. This is the end of Knight Lautrec. Whatever his designs were, whatever the goddess wanted, it died with him. So, is it worth restoring the Firekeeper, or will you give in to the same temptations as Lautrec? Who wants to go hollow, after all?
Damn, so I restored her and basically made her continue to live, which is what she didn't want. My bad. My bad.
Life originates in the soul, which exists in solid and loose forms. Stronger beings have their souls held together in unicity, infusing their unique personality and power. When the body is broken, the link to these souls is severed, exposing the solid soul to the air. When exposed, souls burn like they are on fire. It makes sense then that the 4 Lord Souls were found within the first flame. They were the fuel. But if the soul is the source of all life, then what distinguishes the humanity we hold within ourselves? The truth is, even humanity originates from the soul. It's simply a fragment of the dark soul. The mysteries of souls, crystals, and sorceries are deeply intertwined. The more you understand these things, the more control you have over them. Soul sorcery is the art of controlling soul power with knowledge, just like we manipulate fire with heart and instinct, and miracles through faith. The Dragon School of Vinheim teaches and researches sorcery. The great hero of Vinheim is Big Hat Logan, a great sorcerer and teacher to many students.
Big Hat Logan, I don't even know who you are.
He tired from the attention of others and donned a large hat to hide his face, earning him his nickname. Locked away in a cage in Sen's Fortress, we first encounter Big Hat Logan.
I have a bright idea. Suppose you set me free.
I remember you having a big hat. I don't know why.
But I could repay you with knowledge and sorcery. This place is melting my mind. The inactivity is repressive. I'm saved, and I'd love to resume my travels, but I must log a few things.
I guess if you would have said, hey, I'm Big Hat Logan, I would have been, hey, it's Big Hat Logan, you know? I just don't remember that name.
First, and I owe you a favor.
Back at Firelink Shrine, Logan treats you like an equal, and offers to teach you all that he knows.
Glad to see you alive. As promised, I will share my sorceries. You really are very diligent.
On your journey, you'll find another sorcerer from Vinheim. Once rescued, Griggs joins you at Firelink Shrine as another sorcerer who's in your debt. On the topic of Logan, he says this.
He is a true hero. No, the reason I seek Logan is, well, it's really my own conceit now, isn't it?
This sorcerer of Vinheim seeks Logan simply to prove that he can. It's clear that he admires the man and strives to be like him. After you've proven your worth as a student and learned everything that Logan has to teach, Logan mentions that he has plans to leave. As to where, that's unknown.
Heading out, are you? I too will leave soon. Undead or no, I shan't stay here forever. You have great potential. Don't go and die over nothing.
With his debt repaid, Logan leaves Firelink. He tells you his plans, but he doesn't tell Griggs, who is left in the dark again.
Oh, there you are. Just so you know, Master Logan has left on his own again. It seems that he is still determined to find the famed regal archives in Anor Londo. I intend to search for him.
And this is the last you'll ever hear of Griggs. Hope that you never see him again.
Bye, Griggs.
Sorcery is enhanced by understanding and knowledge. That's why Logan seeks the Archives, a place built for Seath the Scaleless, as reward for his help against the everlasting dragons. The knowledge contained there is beyond measure. Seath was born different from his brothers, who were encased in stone scales that made them immortal. Seath was a mutation, an albino dragon who didn't have the immortality his brothers possessed. Driven by jealousy, he betrayed their secrets, and soon after, driven by desperation, he began the search for immortality. Seath created six-eyed channelers to be his eyes, scouring the Archives and other lands for knowledge. He created crystal golems to retrieve trinkets and maidens for his experiments. He does all this, knowing that time is running out. Logan once taught you that life originates in the soul. That's why a crystal-homing soul mass draws towards it. Somehow, crystals are linked to the soul, and so, through the power of crystals, Seath finally finds what he's been looking for.
Ah, the secret of Seath's immortality. If you have fought him and were in prison, you must know that Seath is a true undead.
This is so
different
cool.
from ourselves.
Seath the little
His
bitch,
wounds
yeah.
close promptly, and no mortal blow affects him, granting true insulation from death. It is an effect of the primordial crystal, a sacred treasure pillaged by Seath when he turned upon the ancient dragons. So only by destroying the primordial crystal can you so much as scratch his
Figure that
eye.
shit out real quick.
Seath's knowledge comes at a price. He finds a source of immortality and hides it away, but something changes. The other lords notice. Seath locks himself away in his archives and stations 2 armored boars in the hallways. Channelers guard the stairways and crystal hollows are scattered throughout. On top of all that, the archives now lead anyone strong enough to a chamber with Seath himself inside. Upon your death, Seath locks you in a cell with a bonfire, knowing that you'll be locked into a cycle within that cell. It's almost like he knew you were coming. But you escape and roam the archives freely. This is where you encounter Logan again. But he's not the same.
Oh, there you are. It's been a while.
Been a while.
Were you just here? This fascinating place defeats my sense of time. But I can't remember the death. He's undead. He was.
Oh man,
same
he's going
knowledge that
crazy.
unsettled Seath is
He's going
affecting
crazy.
Logan. There's some things in the archives that should remain unknown. For the path to true knowledge is cursed, and the fate of the 3 sorcerers in Lordran is something that should be forgotten.
Oh, I remember.
The less that
I
is
remember
known,
seeing him.
the better.
Me after 11 beers. Me after 2 beers, dude. What is this? Look at the kappa.
We all remember the help Tarkus gave us that day. Tarkus was like us, someone trying to make it through the world to uncover the truth. The least we can do is follow in his footsteps and succeed where he failed. The Knights of Berenik are known for their heavy armor and weaponry. There is no nation that is physically stronger, but even among them there was Tarkus, a knight renowned for having strength great enough to sport a set of heavy black iron that was unique to him alone. Berenik was a land outside of Lordran, but it was not free from the curse of the undead. As the curse spread and society crumbled, countless knights became undead. But the knights had not lost their sanity yet. Throughout the neighboring lands, a prophecy was spreading. An old saying from Astora that said this:
Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know.
The fate of the undead. With nothing else to go on, the undead Knights of Berenik ventured to Lordran, which was told to be at the heart of the undead curse. They were right. The gods were partly responsible for the crumbling world. The light in Anor Londo is an illusion, and many gods have already abandoned the world of men. For the real light, the first flame, was fading. There was one path into Anor Londo, and that was through Sen's fortress. So the Knights of Berenik threw themselves at the deadly castle, trying to force their way through. And they were not the only ones.
Sen's fortress
Within
is
Sen's
so
fortress
cool.
we see the hollowed forms of both Knights of Berenik and Boulder, 2 nations that attempted to reach the land of the gods, desperate to discover the fate of the undead. Near the top of Sen's fortress there is an undead man who desperately tries to retain his sanity.
Remember, counts. Counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Count.
He has seen all the heroes pass through Sen's fortress, never to return.
For a century they've tried and failed. The Night King Rendell, Black Iron Tarkus, and even Logan himself. You won't stand a chance, you'll be eaten alive. But go along if you wish, if only to deepen your despair.
God,
They
the
all
voice
failed.
acting is always
Every
so
knight
good.
Of Berenaik, every Boulder Knight, the Night King Rendell, and Logan himself. Every one of them failed, except Tarkus.
That should be a copy pasta. You can make it right now,
leaving his
casual.
hollowed brothers behind. He
Could
carves
be
his
your
summoning
copy
sign
pasta.
at the top of Sen's fortress, so his spirit will be able to aid anyone else who comes as far as he does. Time is convoluted in Lordran, and even if Tarkus is already dead, his spirit will remain to aid those who need help with the final step, even if those heroes exist in another dimension. For guarding the final step to Anor Londo is the Iron Golem. It is said that the soul of this construct was originally the bone of an everlasting dragon, and it has slain countless heroes seeking Anor Londo. For the sake of all those who came before him, Tarkus prevails. He becomes the first one to make it to Anor Londo.
I've destroyed that dude. I destroyed him.
But the tragedy begins
And he kind of
here.
just fell off the ledge.
For when Tarkus arrives at Anor Londo, he finds the path retracted before him. He must break into the palace by the only path available. Up a narrow ledge, through a window, and across the ceiling rafters protected by painting guardians. This operation runs counter to his skills. Encumbered by his armor and huge weaponry, Tarkus falls to his death on the rafters, and is dragged into a corner by the painting guardians. But his death was not in vain, because now the path is clear and Tarkus helped you there. For the sake of the fallen, we carry on.
Wow.
Wow.
Those who are afflicted with the dark sign live forever, locked in a constant state of death and revival.
Tam, are you gonna get this as a tattoo? I'll get it as a tattoo. I'll get it on my forehead. Just brand it. I'll look like Dr. Manhattan.
But immortality isn't seen as a blessing here, it's labeled a curse, and with good reason. Death is replaced by a form of insanity, a state where humanity is lost and the being becomes hollow. They no longer have the will to retain their humanity, to maintain their body or their mind. Hollowing is a constant process, but a point of no return is reached, where humanity cannot be restored. We meet Oscar of Astora just before he reaches that point of no return.
I can feel it coming.
It's so easy to forget Oscar's role, but meeting him is arguably the most important thing that happens to you. Without him, you would still be locked away. He goes to the trouble of finding a key to your cell. But why? Well, there's a reason. Thou who art undead art chosen. In thine exodus from the undead asylum, maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient
Casual
halls.
and
When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. This is a saying passed down through Oscar's family, but it's more than just a saying, it's clearly a prophecy. It says that the undead who escapes the asylum to the land of ancient lords will learn the fate of the undead, something humanity is desperate to know. This prophecy is why Oscar is in the asylum, because if he can leave the asylum, then perhaps he'll be included in the prophecy, and if he's a part of the prophecy, then he may become the one who is supposed to learn the fate of the undead. But he can't be sure that it's him. There are hundreds of other undead locked away in the asylum. So, while he's on the roof, he attempts to let undead out of their cells, hoping to kickstart the prophecy. But there's something else on the roof. The asylum demon guards the prison. Have you ever wondered why you find Oscar dying in a closed cell? There's only one entrance, and that's a hole in the roof. He was smashed into this room by the asylum demon.
Oh shit.
You are a godsend to come at this moment. I wish to ask something of you.
Oscar tells you the prophecy and hollows with the knowledge that you might be the fated undead to leave the asylum. And he's right, you are. But what if Oscar had lived? What if you had both left the asylum together?
Please, come quickly. It is your fate. A pleasure to meet you. Sage Framt has spoken to me about you. I am Oscar of Astora. I wish to thank you for ringing the bell of awakening. I am preparing to leave. I will follow Sage Framt's instructions, and will seek Anor Londo by way of Sen's fortress. May we each fulfill our respective purposes. I hope that we meet again somewhere. One day.
If you believe the prophecy, it means that either yourself or Oscar could be the chosen undead. Both of you meet the requirements. Both of you left the asylum. But as time passes, it becomes more clear that you are the chosen undead, not Oscar. You're the one who rang the bells, and you're the one who meets the prophecy more strongly.
I cannot just stay here. I must find my own purpose.
I'm confused. How did they get these lines of Oscar saying that? Let me know, chat.
Every undead chases a purpose to keep themselves from hollowing. For Oscar, it's different. He's searching for a purpose that's worthy of him, and this obsession is what will spell his tragic end.
Well, how long has it been? Glad to see you safe, but be careful. You must be the same as I. In search of the grave of Sir Artorius. This forest is the territory of a fierce band of thieves. They assault any and all who seek the graves.
Cut dialogue,
what if we were
really?
to join forces? How about that? If we work together, we may escape the bandits. Does that appeal to you? Very well. Let us keep our wits about us. One can always do with another pair of eyes. Things appear to have settled. I was right to partner with you. I will have a short rest here. Feel free to go on ahead.
While both of you make it through the world, you triumph before Oscar, and succeed where it matters. And finally, you make it to the kiln of the first flame, to either replace a dying god, or to finish him off. Whatever path you choose, Oscar chooses the opposite. Driven by a need to be important, he opposes either choice you make. Whether you finish off the dying god, or leave the first flame to die.
So it was you. I had a feeling. I shall destroy you, as fate has commanded me. Foolish pawn of Darkstalker Karth, and fiendish Dark Lord.
Perhaps you choose to replace this dying god, and rekindle the Age of Fire.
I have waited for thee, foolish slave of the gods, and pawn of Frampt. I will kill you, and become the true Dark Lord.
Pawn of Frampt. It would have been sick if Vati paid the voice actor to do this shit.
Whichever path you choose, Oscar opposes you in his desperation to be included in fate. A search for purpose is all that he has.
Interesting. Let's remove dialogue. He was meant to have these key roles. Wow. That's really cool. That's awesome.
In the beginning, there was no life or death,
This
no
is
light or
Nitro
dark.
and the undead curse.
There was, however, the above and the below. Above, where the everlasting dragons ruled, and below, where there were humanoid beings that would one day become humans, giants, and lords. Below, fire was born, and some beings found power within these flames and took it for themselves. Gwyn could be called a Lord of Light, Nito a Lord of Death, and the Witch of Izalith a Lord of Life. These souls were the disparity. They represented black and white, where everything else was grey before. And so they cast away the grey, and started an age of light and dark, life and death. There is one that I haven't mentioned, who came after the other three lords. The furtive pygmy found the dark soul within the flames, and fathered humanity. The pygmy was content to wait, splitting and spreading his soul while the other lords changed the world. There are dynamics that exist between the souls.
That's bright.
You can't have one without the other. Gwyn's Age of Fire is built around the first flame, which was linked to bonfires and spread throughout the world. However, eventually, even this fire began to fade. It was realized that humanity, the little black sprite in every human, could feed the fire, so Gwyn commanded his children to shepherd the humans. Maybe there's a reason the Dark Soul was found after the first three. Maybe it was the fuel. You already know what happens next. The grey dragons were cast aside, and Gwyn began an Age of Fire. When the flame started to fade, the Witch of Izalith attempted to create a new flame with her life soul, but it spiraled out of control and demons were created. Then out of nowhere, a curse appeared, a kind of disease that links humans to the bonfires, causing some to become undying. Instead of death, there is hollowing, and to reverse the hollowing, one has to offer humanity to the flames. Convenient, isn't it? Some even whisper that the curse was designed by the lords, to keep the humanity of the undead linked to the bonfires. The more humanity they donate, the greater the fire grows. and the undead are drawn to the flame, fated to be consumed over and over again until only a hollow husk is left. For the purpose of shepherding the humans,
That sounds
the church,
like the
Way of White was formed,
capitalist system
an
of
influential
America.
covenant devoted to serving the gods.
Know what I mean,
They
Chad?
condemn the undead as a plague. The cleric knights of Lloyd are praised for their undead hunts, using Lloyd's talismans to prevent the undead from recovering, allowing the knights to kill with impunity. Afraid of the threat that the Dark Souls pose, Gwyn effectively sets humanity against itself. Undead are caught and shipped to the asylum to await the end of the world. So what happens when a member of the church becomes an accursed undead?
Gwyn is the 1%.
When this happens, it isn't seen as a curse. It couldn't be. How could such a thing happen to a member of the church? No, becoming an undead Way of White member means you are blessed. It means you must devote yourself to a pilgrimage in service of the Way of White, something
Dude.
that gets you out of the church, but
Screw
still
this
serves the
area,
church's
dude.
purpose.
Screw it.
Undead clerics are given a quest for kindling, the art of feeding bonfires with humanity. Is there humanity hidden within the catacombs? Maybe.
Hell no.
But it's much more likely that they are searching for a secret rite of kindling, a method of feeding bonfires with humanity that was stolen from an ally of Gwyn. And this brings us to Nitro, who was rumoured to hold the rite of kindling until it was stolen by Pinwheel. Nitro is a strange entity. Unlike the other lords, he seems to only have one motive. Above all else, we see his desire to spread death. He doesn't concern himself with the politics of
Later,
the outside
lobsters.
world, except for once when he brought death to the undying. The everlasting dragons had their stone scales ripped apart by Gwyn, and Nitro delivered the death blow. But why did he do this? Well, disparity is in Nitro's best interests, because if life exists, so too must death. After the successful alliance with Gwyn, Nitro gained dominion over the dead and the catacombs, with a vast army of dead servants defending
There's just nothing cool than the fact that Nito wants to spread death. That's so metal.
his tomb, and another army of Gravelord servants actively spreading death to others through the eyes of death. Nitro seems content to wait in the darkest depths of the catacombs, slowly growing his army of the dead. Like all the other Lord Souls,
Ugh.
his power is
Hated these
distributed
dudes.
among his servants. But is there nothing more to Nitro? The first undead cleric was Leroy. He was given a glorified set of armor and the most powerful relics the church possessed. In a grand gesture, he was sent into the catacombs to retrieve kindling. You fight with him to kill Pinwheel, and the mission is successful. You retrieve the right from the catacombs which was stolen from Nitro. But there's more. Attempt to kill Nitro, and Leroy will defend him. Leroy will fight against you. Assume then that Nitro is important to the Way of White. Perhaps his purpose of spreading death is what Gwyn wants. It makes sense. Spread death, and the undead have to burn humanity to feed the bonfires and keep themselves human.
I murked his
Feed the
bitch ass.
bonfires, and Gwyn's Age of Fire can last a little longer. The real tragedy here is the deceit. We are all in the dark. Humanity has no idea what caused the undead curse, but it's spreading. Entire lands are becoming infected with the mysterious dark sign, which keeps undead reliant on the bonfires, unable to die. No one knows where it originated, no one knows who created it, or if there is even a who behind it. All we do know is that you could be a regular human before you turned undead. You'd be unable to die, but unable to stop deteriorating, becoming more and more hollow with every death. Suddenly, you're a threat to those around you.
Sick
The Way of
shot
White
right there,
busies
Bobsy.
themselves with purging the undead from the world, but they don't know if the curse is a threat, they don't know how it came about, or if they're just being sent into the catacombs to die. And you're being led by serpents who tell you different things, encouraged to kill all of the lords in your path regardless of whether they're in your way, just so you can get enough souls to satiate the Lord Vessel, in the hope that killing Gwyn will give you answers. There are no answers, yet. At the core of everything is the curse.
The focus of the first game is humanity. The focus of the second is curse. We'll see if I ever play the second one, chat. We'll see.
Those who are branded with the dark sign.
Oh no, we have the really bad,
But is eternal life a
really
blessing
bad audio
or a
here.
curse? The theocracy in the land is based around the Way of White, which follows the will of Lord Gwyn. Serving under Gwyn are esteemed houses like the House of Thorland. Think for a moment about what you know of churches that existed in medieval times. Churches seek control of all people in the name of God, and are conservative by nature. They fear change. One day, people become branded with eternal life. This would disrupt the balance, and naturally the church would fear this. But how to deal with it? Should you label it as a blessing and as the will of God? No. If this eternal life ended with people losing the will to live and becoming hollow, then why not label the dark sign as a curse? We don't know what made the dark sign, but the church made it evil. So, what happens if a member of the church becomes undead? To keep the Age of Fire going, bonfires can be fed humanity through the art of kindling. Hidden deep within the catacombs is rumoured to be a technique where bonfires can be fed to grow even stronger. The Way of White seeks this knowledge to better serve Lord Gwyn. The first undead member of the church was a paladin in golden armour. Equipped with legendary treasures, he set out on the first undead mission of the Way of White. A mission for the rite of kindling. From this point forth, all undead within the church are sent on this same mission. This serves two purposes.
That armor set ruled.
Firstly, if any undead succeeds in retrieving the rite, then the church will grow more powerful. Secondly, it doesn't matter if the mission ends in failure, because the church will have rid themselves of accursed undead.
Labeled it as blessing.
Rhea is a daughter of the House of Thorland, which is inarguably the most prestigious religious family. However,
okay, cool. Okay, and now I know who the hell she is now, because I see Rhea and the Way of Rhea and the Way of White on top, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. But I remember saving her, and then she just disappeared with these homies, and then I just kind of forgot that she existed in the game.
Themselves of accursed undead. Rhea is a daughter of the House of Thorland, which is inarguably the most prestigious religious family. However, she becomes undead, and even her high birth cannot save her from undergoing the undead mission.
Dan Reichert! Thank you for the raid, Dan. We're just watching Dark Souls lore.
Companions in a futile search for kindling. Upon arrival,
Almost done.
Rhea meets Petrus. Petrus is an undead cleric who resides at Firelink Shrine. He guides undead on their mission. But there's more to this man than there seems.
Oh yeah, I beat the DLC last week with the ending.
He has stashed under
It's on my
Firelink
YouTube
Shrine.
channel. Full
Your
playthrough.
second clue comes from the Pardoner.
Hast thou acquaintance with Petrus of Thorland? I wager you two have likely found much in common. For is he not too drenched in sin?
YouTube link is right there if you want to check that out. Hogman.
Shortly after they arrive, Rhea and her party disappear deep into the catacombs. For a while, the player will notice their absence from the game.
Yep, I noticed.
Eventually, however, Petrus will return, and he returns alone.
Oh, you again? Me? I've become separated from my lady. I've scoured near and far.
Milady.
But no sight of her. Where could she have gone? Milady.
Milady.
I think I swore to protect you with my life.
He's lying. Petrus will gladly admit to his crimes if you discover the truth through Lautrec. Petrus reveals that he hates the lady for her high birth, but why did he abandon her? Perhaps he doesn't think she's worth it. Perhaps he is a coward. Or perhaps it is his job to ensure that undead never return from the catacombs.
Good day. You look reasonable.
Hey, I see some treasure down there. Why don't you go try to pick it up for me, eh?
Sane?
Fucking
What are you
bitch.
doing in the catacombs? Are you a cleric or something?
Maiden Thoroland and her followers recently arrived in this land, but she became stranded deep below the catacombs. Her followers either fled or were reduced to hollows, leaving Maiden Thoroland all alone. Not a bad tip, huh? A Nubar cleric would be replete with humanity.
Lautrec suggests that you rob the helpless girl of her humanity. She is alone in a dark pit, surrounded by her hollow friends and no way of escape.
You're no hollow, are you? Thank goodness. Please be careful. There are two fierce hollows not far from here. They were once brave knights, my former escorts. Who would let such strong spirits be hollowed so? Heavens, is there nothing at all to be done?
Have you spoken with Sir Lautrec? Splendid. In the depths of the catacombs, Milady slipped off the giant's coffin and into a hole. Her two companions are no longer human, and the lass weeps in solitude. Right now, you could do as you please with her. The poor little purebred is entirely helpless.
Creeper.
You banished those two hollows, did you? It pains me to think of the trouble my failings have caused. I am certain that both Vince and Nico are grateful to you. Thank you so very much.
Oh, it's you. You rescued Milady. Well, a pity that is, for it will amount to nothing, for the little madam is not worth her salt without her family name.
After everything, you find Rhea alone praying in the church.
Dear Vince, dear Nico, forgive me. I have lost all those who were close to me. Perhaps Petrus realized my weakness all along and thus made the decision to abandon me. I can hardly blame him now.
Damn, I didn't know she showed up there.
If I do go hollow, then finish me off. I beg of you.
It sounds like the same voice actor who played Fair Lady.
This is where the path splits, but both paths end in death. If you do not kill Petrus for abandoning Rhea, then Rhea will die. Petrus plays innocent, but if you kill him after her death, you will find her ivory talisman upon his person. Perhaps Petrus kills Rhea to keep her quiet. Perhaps he hates her high birth, or perhaps disposing of undead is his job. But if you kill Petrus for abandoning Rhea...
Petrus just sounds like a bad name.
Assassinated.
By the lords! You damned fool! Enough of you!
Look at tiny little shield.
The wrath of the gods.
Fool, what were you thinking? Too bad for you. I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, right, dude. Get backstabbed, bitch. Is this just gonna be another fight?
Can't end.
It did end like this.
Will not hollow. Rhea will teach you miracles in the church until she has nothing left to teach you. Shortly after, she loses the will to go on, but she continues to pray. Rhea is a highborn girl who becomes undead. She no longer has a place in her homeland, and is cast away to be forgotten. She does her best, but fails to find the secret of kindling. Betrayed by a man who hates her for a high birth, tricked by Patches, lusted after by Lautrec, and responsible for the death of her friends, she is rescued by you, the only one in Lordran who gives her mercy. She repays you with miracles, but she soon teaches you all that she knows and is of no use.
Damn.
And there are eyes watching. Channelers are the eyes of Seath, and can be found in many lands. One of them frequents the undead church. While their motives are largely uncertain, it's known that Seath captures maidens for his experiments. The channeler spies Rhea as she prays, and takes her to a cell in the archives.
Oh shit.
And that is where Rhea hollows, and spends the rest of her days.
Oh my god. I didn't know that. Holy shit. I just saw some random enemy.
If I do go hollow, then finish me off. I beg of you.
Holy shit. Oh, so we never fought her. Yeah. Okay, so I only would have fought her had I encountered her in this area. Got it. Okay, so I didn't even encounter her. Because I fought a bunch of enemies that I just didn't know who they were. Oh, I had to kill Petrus as well. Got it. The penultimate episode. This is the penultimate episode. Who the hell is Velka? We'll find out.
Why does the crow take the chosen undead to Lordran? Oscar speaks of a prophecy in which the chosen undead must escape the asylum. It's easy to say that the crow is just a meaningless method of transport, but perhaps the story is deeper than that. Gargoyles guard the Bell of Awakening, bat demons take you from Sen's Fortress to Anor Londo, and snake men are used as guards. The lords seem to have the ability to make beasts do their bidding. There is one goddess in particular who has a powerful link with crows. Velka. In Japanese mythology, crows are messengers from the gods, symbolizing divine intervention and guidance on human affairs. The crow takes you to Lordran, where you become manipulated by the gods. So if we assume that Velka is linked to the giant crow, or is the crow, we have to ask, why would she want powerful undead to escape the asylum? Velka is the goddess of sin. It's worth noting that she doesn't have a lord soul, but is an actual goddess. She does not just punish humans, she has a great degree of influence where the gods are concerned, and the lords fear her. Everything related to Velka, and everything that the lords fear...
I'm just not realizing I didn't fight whatever the hell was at the end of the Painted World of Ariandel, or whatever the hell they call it. I beat that one dragon thing that vomits poison, but I never went all the way to the end. I ended up stopping that playthrough, or I ended up stopping that stream. Priscilla is at the end? Okay, so what's at the very, very end of the walkway when you kill the big dragon that's blocking you, the vomiting dragon? You kill that thing, what's at the very, very end there? Oh, you just get like an ember? Oh, it's a dead end. Okay. Got it. Okay. Because I killed that dragon, and as I kept walking, I saw something off in the distance. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to deal with that right now. Whatever the hell that is, it looks like an enemy of some sort. It has a weird corpse of the dragon. Got it. Okay. Priscilla's at the end. Yeah, she was cool. She was really. I'm glad she talked to me and let me know that she was a cool friend. Yeah, would have been cool if she would have let me know that. But, you know, shooter's gonna shoot, dude. You know.
In the Painted World, there are hundreds of crows. There are the crow people of Velka. There is the equipment of Velka's partners, and there are the spells used by her order. Most importantly, however, the Painted World holds everything that the lords fear. It holds the occult Ember and the half-dragon Priscilla, both of which are lethal to the lords. So with all this...
Ooh. I realized I didn't go to that down area as a human. I remember being there and weird music queued up where you fight that enemy that's sort of like the phalanx demon. There's that one enemy down there at the very, very bottom. And if you move off to the right, some weird music cues, and chat told me to go back there after I pop humanity. But I ended up saying, nah, whatever. Oh, you get oh, NPC Phantom. Okay, got it. NPC Phantom sounds like a piece of sound equipment.
This information, we are left guessing the allegiance of Velka. Why is she taking undead from the asylum to Lordran? The Vow of Silence miracle describes Velka as a rogue deity, suggesting she has no allegiance save the hunting down of sinners. Perhaps by taking you to Lordran, she is unleashing you upon the gods for their sins. The chosen undead certainly is a nightmare for any gods he encounters, attacking them relentlessly until he succeeds, not even letting death stop him. I think having someone unkillable come at you over and over again is pretty good punishment. Perhaps Velka is on Gwendolyn's side. Gwendolyn is the leader of the Dark Moons, who hunt down sinners inside Velka's Book of the Guilty.
Fuck this boss.
Gwendolyn wants to find worthy undead to link the flame.
Terrible boss fight.
Would simply be a part of that, since she chooses powerful undead from the asylum through her crow. Interpretation number 3 is your own interpretation. I can't say I'm right and I can't say you're wrong, because the game is open-ended and it's fun to speculate.
No, you're probably right, buddy.
So based on this information, do you think Velka has a hidden role in the plot?
I couldn't tell you.
Is she playing her hand from behind the scenes? Why?
That's a lot of Dark Souls lore that we just watched. All courtesy of Vati Vidya. And shout out to Tamor Hussein for helping out, dude. Amazing. Everybody go follow the links down below in the description. Go watch those videos, subscribe, like them. Even if you watched them with me, just go like them anyway. Give them extra views. Phenomenal content. Appreciate that very, very much. Kind of want to take a break from all the souls, and you all be safe now. I love you.